Well, before we get going, I just kind of wanted to remind everybody that there is a media order that has been issued on this case. And for some of the media and the individuals who've been here for the last couple of weeks, I'm sure are familiar with it. But I know there's a constant people coming in and out. So I just want to remind everyone that there is a specific media order that's been issued on this case, and that everybody is presumed to have reviewed it and agreed to it. So if there are any violations or problems with that, we'll have to deal with it. But I just kind of wanted to remind everybody, especially people who may have just come into the courtroom recently. So if you have any questions about what that order is, you can speak to any of the court officers. They have a copy of it. We can get a copy of it to everybody who needs to see it and review it. All right, and with that, what we'll do is we're going to go, the defendant, excuse me, had filed a motion for addition to the witness list, to add to the witness list regarding a Ms. Thorndike. So what I'm going to do first, I'll hear from the defendant, then I'll hear from the Commonwealth.
Thank you.
Mr. Reddington.
Thank you. Your Honor, basically, as the motion speaks for itself, there is a woman, her name is Emily Thorndike, who's a LACSW here in Massachusetts. She owns and is an independent operator of her own clinical social work establishment called Wise Mind Therapy. Your Honor has her resume. She graduated from Dover-Sherburne High School, received the Bachelor of Arts in Sociology from Hartwick College, master's degree from BC, 2019, is licensed in Massachusetts. And interestingly enough, she did work at the McLean Hospital in the very short-term unit that the doctor was testifying that Lindsay was in for 5 days in January of 22 into 23. She worked for 5 years as a mental health specialist from May of 2014 to May of 2019. She was a clinical social worker manager of that unit from 2019-2021. So she's basically got about 7 years and 7 months of experience working in that unit for a majority of that period of time, full-time employee, and then for 1 year as a supervisor. She left, as the court is aware from the motion. I vetted her out. I obviously would be concerned if there's any so-called axe to grind, if you will, any lawsuits pending. Were you fired? Did you have any difficulties? Any claims for harassment, hostile workplace? Absolutely nothing. She has friends that are still employees that still work at McLean. And I do not know this woman. I have literally never met her. Her involvement in this case came about after one of the prosecutors, I don't recall which, made it out on direct examination that McLean is some kind of a five-star institution where the doctors, the psychiatrists, the psychotherapists, the counselors were all banging into each other in the hallway trying to interview Ms. Clancy, who was just blithely refusing care and treatment, which is not the case. Patrick testified as to his observations. The court is aware that Patrick's testimony clearly in all fours landed on the fact that it was clear to him that there was no staff that was available other than kids behind plexiglass on their cell phones. She colored, she took walks, there was no therapy. She didn't speak to any therapists or counselors. So now the jury is left with that image that McLean is purportedly some kind of a five-star hospital because they're affiliated, quote unquote, with Harvard, which you from your practice, I'm sure, as I know from my practice, is as far from the truth as can be possible, in my opinion. But it doesn't matter what my opinion is. I could cross-examine somebody till the cows come home. It doesn't matter. This woman posted a video on TikTok, which, much like yourself, I'm sure, I hardly know what TikTok is, but I received an email from one of the very, very active people in the community of TikTok saying, look, you got to check this video out. So I did. This is about a week ago, maybe longer now. When I saw her video saying that she could not stand for, and I quote, the lies and the misrepresentations from that witness stand about McLean Hospital, I then said to my private investigator, Bob Jones, I said, Bob, I can't find this woman because she had a pseudonym name or whatever. He went, we wrote, he called her, left messages. She never got back to us for like 3 days. He went to her house. He sat out in front of her driveway. She came home from work. They interacted. He waved, didn't want to scare her. And she said, I thought, and oh, by the way, I believe that my wife had written her a letter as well, because she's a nurse and was trying to reach out to her to have her get in touch with me, to no response. She then tells Bob, I thought you guys were all AI. I didn't know that you were real. I thought it was spam. He then gave me her number. I spoke to her. She told me exactly what I put in the affidavit or in the motion, and she is available, ready, willing, and able to testify to an employee's observations over 7 years, including as a supervisor, as to what woeful environment McLean Hospital offers, especially on holidays, such as major holidays like New Year's, which is fine. We all enjoy New Year's. But nevertheless, New Year's, the day after, nobody was there. And I think it's important to rebut the inference that was created through the examination by the DA.
All right, Mr. Brady, let me ask you this, and I'm going to ask the Commonwealth kind of the same thing. What's the relevance? What's the argument for the relevance of what McLean's was, at least because she wasn't there for about a year, if I looked at the motion. Is that correct? No, that's all right.
Yeah, that's true. She left. She has her own business now, and she left, but it was just a year.
Yeah.
There's no change in the circumstances from Lindsay going into that hospital on New Year's of 2022 to 23, and this woman's work experience where she left a year before. And I agree with you. This would have been a non-issue were it not for the flavor of the government's repeated argument that she was a person who was spurning health care, didn't want health care, had the opportunity, and she walked away from the opportunity, which, as I say, is as far from the truth as possible. So I think it is now, because of their questioning, squarely before the jury, to leave that impression. And the woman that was the doctor from McLean was just a pleasure. She was just a lovely, lovely woman and testified as best she could in the case. But they're left with the impression that McLean is this wonderful place that she just did not have any interest in utilizing what was available to her. That was not available to her. And she's testifying to custom, practice, and her observations over 7.5 years.
Is there another alternative to get there? Someone who actually works there or worked there during this time period? That it's the time period that
a year?
One of the things that, well, yeah, but things can change in a year, you know?
I don't think so at McLean.
I don't know so. I guess that's the question. I don't know so. That would be that's one of the things I may have to wrestle with. But that's kind of what I was asking, whether or not there is, or I understand the argument.
Okay.
And I understand the argument regarding relevance. But if we're talking about staffing or the availability of programs and how that work, this witness is a gap there. I guess that's all. I'm wondering if there's another way to get there.
So, you know, the realities of trial practice, if you're the government, you send summonses, you have people come to your office, you're interviewing witnesses. If you're the defense, they run for the hills. For example, one motion I'm bringing with you is merely looking for pediatric records that I have had to have Bob Jones go and try to get them, HIPAA forms, everything, and they're avoiding us horribly. And I'm going to have a contempt hearing request very shortly. But the point I'm getting at is, if they want to reach out to McLean, I'm sure that McLean administration would bend over backwards to give them every record that they would need as to how many employees they had, what their work records were, their doctors, their counselors, all available. I know I can't get it. So I'm suggesting to Your Honor that this is an opportunity for a person who worked there for all those years, who does not have any dog in the fight, to testify to what her observations were clearly within her time frame. She left a year before Lindsay went in there on New Year's. So I certainly agree with that. Cross-examination, they could get records if they wish, but I think it is relevant. I think it's material, and I think it has to be used to rebut the inference that was raised.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
Yeah, Commonwealth?
Your Honor, the Commonwealth would object to the witness, the late disclosed witness. In addition to the obvious Rule 14 issues, the fact that we didn't have notice of this individual, there's been no discovery other than what's contained in the affidavit and what we could identify from this woman's TikTok video. There's no report from the investigator who admittedly by counsel has spoken to this witness, this individual. Aside from that, we have a number of other issues with this witness. One is this isn't somebody that's proposed to be an expert, so they're not relieved, they wouldn't be relieved of a sequestration order, but this woman's TikTok, admittedly, she's been following the trial. She goes on for several minutes in a very long TikTok video where she identifies what she thinks are lies based on her observations of Patrick Clancy's testimony. We have no idea what her thoughts are or what her comments are on the rest of the trial that we assume she's watched based on her comments in this particular video. That she outlines in this video her experiences at McLean and her observations and how they are different from what was portrayed in that particular witness's testimony. But in the course of this trial, we not only have that particular witness's testimony, we have records from McLean, and the records speak for themselves about what she was offered, what she did, what she declined, what the contact was with each and every person who wrote a note in that record. But this witness admittedly wasn't there, had no contact, has no knowledge of the case in of itself. And in this case, Your Honor, we deal with facts. We're presenting facts to the jury. We're not presenting somebody's opinion about what kind of care the defendant got during her stay at McLean. That's not what this trial is about. That's not what it should be about. And if it wants to play out in the court of public opinion, that's fine, but not inside the walls of these courtroom. So this person who said that she cares about Lindsay in this video, whether other people do or don't, this person who said that the prosecution of this case is an abomination, this person who said that the health profession needs to be held responsible for their care of the defendant, that's not a witness that presents facts to this jury. And I would also agree that there is a problem with what relevant testimony that she could give. There is no indication that what her experiences were in those 7 years up until December of 2021 are exactly the same as they would have been when the defendant was at that short-term unit at McLean. And the defense had the opportunity to ask that of Dr. Goodhart, and he didn't. So there is...
Wait a minute. I think she said, I don't know what the staffing was. Didn't she say, I don't know how many people were on? I don't know if it was a skeleton crew?
She said on that particular weekend she didn't know what the staffing was,
well,
but she wasn't asked.
That's the only weekend we're talking about.
Right, but now he wants to make this an issue about the practices and the common practice of the hospital, but that was not a question that was asked of her, nor would Your Honor necessarily have permitted it where he was trying to tailor the testimony to the exchanges with the defendant. So to then have the witness available to answer those questions that was at the facility during that time period, and then not take that opportunity and offer this subsequent witness and call it a rebuttal witness, it's not a fair line of examination. It's not a fair line of rebuttal where she wasn't there during the time period. So we would object for all of those reasons.
I mean, just so everybody knows where I'm going, I can't imagine that that witness would be allowed to give her, in a sense, review of McLean's. If it's 5-star and she may say it's 2-star, you know, this is not TripAdvisor. I wouldn't allow that.
And no one...
But the question seems to be, for me, a closer call about what the standard staffing and programs may be available on a holiday weekend. Because the Commonwealth's witness said, I don't know that. And that seems to be something that maybe the parties could come to an agreement about establishing, either, there's got to be somebody who's still working there that says the weekend, 2 weeks, the weekend after this wasn't a holiday, we have X amount of people there. We have X amount of programs that are available. On the holiday weekend, we do or we don't. To me, that's where the battle on this motion is. I do understand the Commonwealth's objections regarding allowing people who watch the trial to then say, I disagree with it, and I want to testify about what I disagree with. That's troubling, but I'm talking about the facts on this thing. And that's if it was anything other than those kind of facts, and this witness had not worked there, I'm not sure we'd even be having this hearing.
And I would suggest that counsel indicated that in trial practice that people are reluctant to give information to the defense. But there are avenues, procedural avenues, that he could pursue to get that information involving the court or involving subpoenas, in which there's been no indication that he's actually tried to do. And again, I would suggest to the court that we have the McLean records from that time period in evidence, and they are the best evidence of the contact that people there, staff that were there that day, had, or those 4 days, had with the defendant on that day. So from the perspective of if there's missing information, there are avenues he could pursue if he wants to rebut it. I would suggest that this person's testimony is not relevant because they weren't there. And I would agree that the better option, if defense wants to present this as a rebuttal, would be from somebody that is there, but he doesn't have that. And so for those reasons, this motion should be denied.
And you don't have to commit to this at all, but it seems to me that it would be a very simple solution to get the staffing records or somebody at McLean's who can testify to this. What was the program availability on the mid-December weekend, if you went in there, as opposed to the weekend of New Year's? And it may be no different whatsoever, and that kind of eliminates the argument. So I think probably the best way to deal with this is to maybe have a voir dire of this witness in regards to what, so then the record's clear too. But it also allows the parties to consider while we're setting this up, maybe there's another way to do it, a lesser alternative, so to speak, that would reduce the prejudice to both parties. So
And I don't know how a voir dire of this particular witness, who clearly wasn't there and didn't have contact with the facility during that time period, would answer Your Honor's questions. But I do agree.
Maybe we can find out. I can ask the questions and we could see. I understand the problem that I kind of had as the case was going. The individual that was probably, you would anticipate, could talk about the staffing, the difference of a holiday weekend and a non-holiday weekend, said she wasn't aware of that. So,
Well, I don't know that she said she wasn't aware of the difference. She said she wasn't aware of who was there on that weekend because she wasn't working that weekend. So I think there's a slight distinction in that. But again, the witness was available. Counsel could have crossed her on that, subject to any sort of objection, and we could have addressed it at that time when the witness was on the stand. But again, that witness is under summons, and if counsel wants to recall her, he can. There are avenues that he could pursue if he wants to pursue this line of rebuttal that's short of calling this particular witness that's been proposed, is the point that the Commonwealth wishes to express.
So I'm going to take this under advisement. I want to review it. But I'm inclined, just so everybody can kind of maybe make some idea where we may go with this, I'm inclined to have a voir dire with this witness or some other witness. So maybe the defendant can get somebody who hasn't watched the trial, because I do understand there's an issue regarding sequestration, but that may be a function of a trial like this that's being broadcast. How do we guard against that? But that's not going to affect really the relevance, the prejudice, the determinations I have to make, under, really under all the rules, 401, 403, all of those considerations that I have to make. So I'm inclined to do that unless the parties can think of I won't say better alternative, that's not fair to this witness, a different alternative that might address
I don't think
everybody.
we're going to be able to agree on anything, Judge, so it would really be up
Oh, I know,
to
but
the referee to make a decision.
right, is what I'm trying to do is put that out there. If the parties can agree, I think the three of you know me. I don't have a problem making a decision, I really don't. But I just kind of wanted to give everybody that opportunity to maybe craft a solution. And if I have to do it, that's kind of what I'm saying by saying I'll take it under advisement. So I'll let the parties know.
I may just ask,
Sure.
Your Honor, if you're reviewing this, taking it under advisement, that you do look in more detail at those records, the McLean Hospital records.
Sure,
and
yeah.
current evidence, so that Your Honor can see the extent of the contact, the extent of the notes of people who actually dealt with her. Because again, that is the issue. That is the factual issue here, is the contact that she actually had.
Yeah.
Not what maybe she wasn't offered at other points, but what she had while she was there. So I ask that you just review.
All right, I'll review that. I'll review my notes regarding the doctor who testified from McLean's, and then we can deal with this. This would be a witness that would be called later in the trial anyway, so it'll give me a chance to do that, review that, get a decision to the three of you, and then we can, depending what happens, either schedule a voir dire or go from there. All right? But, all right, thank you for everybody for kind of agreeing to argue this a little bit earlier, so it gives me a chance to review the records and the arguments. All right, with that now, we ready for the jury?
Yes.
Come on.
All rise. Jurors entering.
Hey, all persons having anything to do before the Honorable William Sullivan, Justice of the Superior Court, now sitting in Plymouth, within and for the Commonwealth. Draw near, give your attendance, and you shall be heard. God save the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. This court is now in session. Please be seated.
Good morning. morning, Your Honor. May I proceed?
Yes, please.
Your Honor, before the court today, we have the continuation of the jury trial in the matter of Commonwealth versus Lindsay Clancy. Ms. Clancy is present. She is represented by Attorney Kevin Reddington. The Commonwealth is represented by Assistant District Attorney Jennifer Sprague and Assistant District Attorney Shannon Buckingham.
All right. Well, good morning, everyone. Good morning. Thanks for your patience. I told you we got a little late start, but I appreciate you waiting for us. And so what I'm going to do is going to go through those questions. And then at that point, we'll talk a little bit about the schedule, and then we'll get right back into the trial. So first question, as you all know by this point, has any member of the jury read, seen, heard, or overheard anything from any source about any aspect of this case that would affect your ability to be a fair and impartial juror? Second question is there any other serious matter or concern bearing on your service as a juror in this case that anybody needs to bring to my attention? Again, thank you for following those instructions. And then in regards to today's schedule, I'll probably be wrong again, but the best aspect, I think it'll probably be similar to yesterday, okay? So we'll return to the case, we'll take a break, hopefully around 11, take a break from 1 to 2, and then we'll go into the afternoon depending on how the case testimony goes. And then at the end of the day, I'll try to remember, bring counsel over here, we'll talk about kind of where we are on the timeline of the case, where we are kind of scheduled for the week and going forward. So I'll try and give you that hopefully this afternoon before I send you home. All right, so with that, we're going to return. There was a witness, Ms. Paul was on the stand. The Commonwealth had finished their direct examination, and we're about to begin cross-examination of that witness. So I would ask the witness if the witness could retake the stand, please. All right, good morning.
Good morning.
All right, Mr. Reddington?
Thank you, Judge. Morning, Nurse Paul.
Good morning.
And if I understand, you now live and perhaps work in New Hampshire, is that right?
That's correct.
And are you still doing the same type of work that you were doing with the social health?
Yes, I am.
Excellent. Very good. You obviously are a very, very dedicated person to this field, if you will, and helping people that are pregnant women after they had birth and during that postpartum period, right?
Correct.
You work with Lindsay, and the reason you were involved with Lindsay is because, if I understand it correctly, her mother-in-law, Patrick's mother, Sue, worked with a friend of yours.
Correct.
So basically, Sue asked her friend if she could reach out and have you kind of step in and help out.
That's correct.
And that's what you did.
Yes.
And you stepped up and you treated this woman, obviously, with care and professionalism, in my opinion.
Thank you.
Your Honor, I would like to offer the records from Social Health, if I could.
Objection?
No objection.
Those records may be admitted.
Exhibit 222.
And in the course of your treatment of Lindsay, actually, you went so far as to give you a cell phone, if I'm correct. Is that right?
She did have my cell phone because I called her on my day off. Yes, sir.
Okay. I don't have any other questions, Judge. Thank you very much for your care.
All right. Counsel, anything further?
No, thank you.
All right, thank you. You may step down.
Thank you.
The Commonwealth would call Rebecca Zawada as its next witness.
morning, ma'am. Stop right there and raise your right hand to the clerk, please.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony in the only issue should be in the chair is ever Thank you, ma'am. You may have a seat.
Watch your step, please.
Hey, good morning. I'm going to ask you to keep your voice up and speak into that microphone, all right?
Thank you, Your Honor.
Yes. Attorney Buckingham, please.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Could you please tell the jurors your first and last name?
Rebecca Gelada.
And how do you spell your last name for the record?
Jollota.
And what do you do for work?
I'm a psychiatric nurse practitioner.
And what kind of training and education did you do in order to become a psychiatric nurse practitioner?
Thank you. I have my bachelor's degree from the University of Connecticut in Allied Health Sciences. I then went on to get my master's actually in counseling psychology in 2013 from William James College in Newton. I worked in the mental health field as a clinician in various positions for a time. Then I went back to school. I've been an RN in Massachusetts since 2017. I got my MSN in 2019, at which time I became a licensed and credentialed psychiatric nurse practitioner.
And where is that? Here in Massachusetts?
Yes.
Are you licensed anywhere else?
No.
Okay. And so can you tell us a little bit about your work history?
Sure. I have worked in as a detox nurse at McLean. I have worked as a therapist in outpatient clinicians prior to becoming a nurse. I have worked in DMH respite facilities, and now I'm a nurse practitioner.
And when you were a therapist doing outpatient therapist, was that something you were doing on your own as a social worker, or were you associated with a practice?
It was part of my training after I got my master's in counseling in 2013. So I had a panel of patients, but I was under the supervision of a licensed provider. It was up towards getting my licensure.
And where do you currently work?
South Shore Health.
And how long have you worked for South Shore Health?
Since 2021.
And how did you come to work at South Shore Health? What was the role that you started?
I had been working sort of in general practice as a psychiatric nurse practitioner, but I was interested in working in women's mental health specifically. And at that point, I was getting training to become, more specialized in it. And when a job opportunity became available, I applied for it.
And what kind of training is that you were doing to be more specialized in women's health?
So Postpartum Support International is the certifying body so that somebody can become certified in perinatal mental health. I did the 2-day, well, actually it was a 2-day training plus a 3rd day specifically for the psychopharmacology track of it, and then I took a examination and passed the examination.
And so are you certified by the Postpartum Support International?
I am.
Now, as far as the South Shore Perinatal Behavioral Health Clinic, how did you become affiliated with that?
That was the job I applied to in 2021.
Okay. And so when you came to the clinic, who was running the clinic or who was the director?
Julie Paul.
And as far as the clinic itself, what is the clinic's, what's the patient base, or who does the clinic service?
So we specialize in working with women who are pregnant and postpartum up to 2 years after the birth of their most recent baby. We offer medication management. We have a clinician on staff to do counseling. We have a few nurses that work in our program. We work with moms for any range of psychiatric disorders, including addiction.
And when we talk about the range of psychiatric disorders in women who are postpartum, what are we talking about?
Postpartum depression, anxiety, postpartum psychosis, bipolar disorder, panic disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder.
And so you mentioned postpartum psychosis. Have you yourself had the experience of treating women with postpartum psychosis?
I have, yes.
And how many patients approximately over the course of the last 5 years?
Approximately 5.
And how about postpartum depression and postpartum anxiety?
Hundreds.
And in the range of services that the clinic offers and the work that you do you oftentimes collaborate with other community providers to offer additional referrals or services to patients if they need it?
We do.
And how about when somebody appears before you and you believe they need a higher level of care than what you can offer? Do you have relationships with hospitalization programs, or are you able to make referrals to for people for those services?
Yes.
Is that pretty common practice?
Yes.
And you mentioned that one of the services or one of the things offered to patients at the clinic is medication management.
Yes.
Is that a big part of what you do as a psychiatric nurse practitioner?
It is.
And what kind of training do you receive in order to be a prescriber?
So in order to be a prescriber, it's part of my master's in nursing. So you take courses like in advanced pharmacology, advanced health assessment, pathophysiology. It's part of the coursework of my degree, and then you actually have to take a certification exam, and you have to pass the exam. You have to go on and get a DEA license, a Massachusetts controlled substance license. You have to go on and get your advanced practice registered nursing license. So it's education and certification and licensure.
And so you've done the education, you did the certification, and do you have all the licensures that you just described here in Massachusetts?
I do.
And you also mentioned part of the services of working with social workers in the clinic. And what do the social workers do?
They provide short-term counseling to patients, again, because we specialize in up to 2 years postpartum. They could be available to provide counseling during that phase.
And traditionally, postpartum period is a year after birth, right?
Correct.
So why does the clinic offer support for women up to 2 years?
We do acknowledge that while the highest risk period is the first 3 months postpartum, some women can struggle later on in the first year. They may have symptoms that emerge 9-10 months in, so we want to really be able to cover them and treat them if that happens and get them stable.
And does it sometimes take some time to get a person stable?
Absolutely.
And would that be why the program or your program goes up to 2 years?
Yes.
I want to draw your attention to a particular patient, Lindsay Clancy. You're familiar with that patient?
I am.
And how did you become involved with the care of Lindsay Clancy?
I became involved, she had initially seen Julie, and Julie was going to be leaving the clinic in December, and she wanted somebody to take care of Lindsay, again, longer term, since she would be leaving.
And at that time in 2022, when Julie was leaving, how many psychiatric nurse practitioners were at the clinic?
3.
And that includes Julie?
Yes.
And so who was the other nurse practitioner?
Andrea Warden.
And fair to say you had a conversation with Julie about transferring care of this particular patient?
Yes.
And did you have more experience than the other nurse practitioner in the field, if you know?
Not necessarily.
But as far as taking Lindsay on as a patient, you were agreeable to taking over for Julie?
Yeah, in all likelihood, Andrea Warden only works 2 days at our clinic, so it could have been that I was working 5 days at that time, so I would have been more available.
So do you recall when the first contact you had with Lindsay Clancy, what date it was?
It was November 29th, 2022.
And so that was prior to Julie actually leaving, right?
Correct.
And fair to say, on that November 29th date, you had an actual follow-up with Lindsay.
I did.
Do you recall if it was virtual or was it in person?
I recall that it was virtual.
Okay. And in the practice of the clinic, is there an option for patients to do in-person or face-to-face
Yes.
in-person visits? And how does it come about that a person is either in person or virtual?
Our model is that we do initial assessments in person. Because new motherhood is very busy, there's a lot going on, we would rather see you than not. And so sometimes it is just easier to log on to a screen. Sometimes if we feel like someone would benefit from that face-to-face assessment, we'll say, please book your next appointment in person. And I know I did see Lindsay in person on at least one occasion, but my first was virtual.
And as far as kind of that choice about whether a patient appears virtual or in person, is part of the calculus the patient's choice, what they want to have happen?
Yeah.
And if there were circumstances where you believed or insisted that an in-person visit was required, would you articulate that to the patient?
Yes.
And then have them scheduled for an in-person?
Correct.
And as far as your first contact with Lindsay Clancy, were you aware that Julie Paul had done that initial intake with her in person?
I was.
And you had the chance to speak with Julie and to also review the records prior to meeting with her?
Correct.
And so were you aware that the day before, on November 28th, that Julie had some contact with Lindsay Clancy?
I was.
And that there was some phone interaction and there had been some messages sent to the clinic prior to you scheduling the meeting with her?
Correct, yes.
So would you agree that there was an issue that needed to be discussed and that led you to have this appointment with her prior to Julie actually leaving the program?
Yes.
When you met with Ms. Clancy, did you go through kind of a history of her presentation or present illness and kind of things that had occurred in the past?
I did.
And did you do kind of a nuts and bolts start to finish, or did you rely on some of the previous information she had disclosed?
I relied on some of the previous information she had disclosed, things like where she grew up, where she went to school, past clinical history, medication trials, but otherwise I would add my own clinical assessment.
Okay. And you were aware that in the history she presented to the clinic that she had previously been on some medications from another provider?
Correct, yes.
And that she started with Zoloft and Ativan and Benadryl?
Yes.
And that at some point she had visited the South Shore Hospital emergency room?
I believe it was November 16th.
And as a clinic that's associated with the South Shore Health System, do you have access to those records to review
I do.
when you're dealing with a patient?
I do, yeah.
And so you're aware that when she went to the ER on November 16th that they prescribed her trazodone?
I am.
And that she was reporting significant sleep issues at that time?
I was aware.
And then as far as the course of treatment at the clinic, were you able to review her course of treatment with Julie?
I was.
And fair to say that had been very recent, correct?
Very recent, yes.
Her first contact with the clinic was actually November 20th, correct?
Correct.
So you were aware that Julie had originally prescribed Prozac and had already changed the medication plan?
Yes, I was aware.
So in this meeting on November 29th, what was Lindsay reporting to you as the issues?
Would I be able to refer to my note, Your Honor?
Sure,
I'll
you
ju-
can.
I know most of it by memory, but just. So she had been taking mirtazapine, Remeron, at that point for 4 nights. So I believe she started it on November 25th. I was then seeing her on November 29th. She wasn't yet appreciating much difference from mood, anxiety, or insomnia. She would say, you know, I'm able to fall asleep for 2 hours, then I'm up for 3 hours in the middle of the night. And finding herself like in those 3 hours needing to take an Ativan to help her fall back asleep.
Now, when she said not appreciating much difference after taking it for 4 nights, in your training experience, is that something that you would normally see with that type of medication?
Yes, I wasn't surprised by that.
And for something like mirtazapine, or what's referred to as Remeron, right?
Remeron, yeah.
What class of drug is that?
It is a noradrenergic specific serotonin antidepressant. So it's slightly different than an SSRI. It does work on serotonin. It also works on the noradrenergic part is alpha receptors, which is what our body, those are the receptors that our body responds to adrenaline. So it should help kind of calm you down. And it also works on histamine receptors, which is why it can make people sleepy.
So for Remeron, the fact that it has a calming effect on somebody with anxiety, it's sometimes a good fit, right?
Correct, yep.
And for somebody who might be complaining of sleep issues, it also has that secondary component that could help.
Yeah, it is a good choice for somebody who's having depression with prominent anxiety, insomnia, decreased appetite, because it can also increase appetite, which sometimes we want to happen.
And based on your view of her course of treatment with the clinic, those were issues that had arisen, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had noticed she had lost weight when she had gone to her PCP on October 20th. I believe she weighed like 130 pounds. On the 16th, when she went to the ED, she weighed 124 pounds, and they had done a pretty good medical workup on her with labs and everything, and she had reported like decreased appetite, so that was part of the clinical picture, and of course not sleeping and very anxious.
Okay, and so with a medication like Remeron or mirtazapine, does it take time to work or to see results?
Yes.
And typically, what's the time frame for that drug?
I usually tell patients 4 to 6 weeks at a given dose is really going to give us a good idea of what that dose is going to do. You may start to see improvements in the first 2 weeks, but full clinical benefit can take a month, sometimes 8 weeks even.
And you were aware prior to her coming to this follow-up appointment with you that she had been reporting after taking the Remeron feeling disoriented, forgetful, not feeling connected to the body, and anxious about whether she would actually sleep.
Correct.
And so were you aware that on November 28th that one of the nurses actually advised her to increase the Remeron?
I was.
And in addition to the medication, there was also the recommendation that she add some cognitive behavioral therapy to her treatment plan.
Yes.
And at that point on November 29th, by November 29th, were you aware of whether she had met with the social worker at the clinic?
She had not.
So did you have any indication that she had been engaging in some sort of cognitive behavioral or psychotherapy?
No.
Now, in relation to the medication piece of this follow-up, did you have any conversations with her about the concerns with the Remeron and what to do about that?
Yes, I did. I explained to her that it takes time to work, that it has only been 4 days. So I did encourage her to give it some more time. I also made additional recommendations as well.
Okay, and so what were the recommendations for?
I had known that Julie had tried like 5 milligrams of Ambien, so I had suggested maybe we could try 10, maybe we could try Ambien controlled release formulation, because she was having these wake-ups in the middle of the night. The controlled release, kind of like the outer layer gives you 60% of the dose, helps you sleep. Then throughout the night, the inner layer gives you 40% of the dose, keeps you asleep. I said that might be a good option while we're waiting for the Remeron to work. Because I was sort of thinking that maybe the underlying depression, anxiety was causing the poor sleep. So while we're treating that, let's try these alternatives.
Okay, and so was she receptive to the Ambien?
No.
And did she say why?
No, I don't recall.
Okay. Did she express to you that she had some other concerns about taking certain types of medications for sleep, like benzodiazepines?
She did.
What did she say about that?
Was concerned about taking benzos, she had mentioned something called rebound anxiety. And what that is once the dose sort of wears off, your anxiety goes like above your baseline once the dose of a benzodiazepine wears off. It usually typically has to do with half-life of a medication. So for Ativan, that's usually between 8 and 24 hours. So if she's taking it in the middle of the night, the next morning she would feel more anxious. She was concerned about that. She also she was concerned about getting physically dependent on it because she had needed to take it for a number of nights.
And when she used the term rebound anxiety, was that her terminology?
Yes, it was.
And is that a terminology that you generally use in psychiatric care to describe that, what you just told us about?
Yeah, it's a clinical term.
And was that something that she mentioned first, or did you mention?
I put it in quotes in my notes, so that's usually when a patient mentions it, I put it in quotes.
Okay. And so as far as the plan to address the sleep and to help her with this complaint, with Ambien not a choice, what was your next recommendation?
I discussed hydroxyzine because it's an as-needed medication for anxiety, but it's not a benzodiazepine, doesn't really carry that risk of rebound anxiety or tolerance or dependence, and it could help her sleep. So I offered that as an alternative as well.
Were you aware that she was offered hydroxyzine before?
I was not aware of that.
Was she willing to try the hydroxyzine?
No.
And so what was her preference?
Her preference was to continue with the mirtazapine, the Remeron 15 milligrams, and with the as-needed lorazepam.
And just so we kind of stay with the same terminology, when you're talking lorazepam.
Sorry, Ativan? Yeah.
And that was something that she expressed to you?
Yes.
Now, when you're dealing with a patient, and obviously this is your first interaction with her, right? Mm-hmm. Do you take into account your contact and communication with them in assessing whether they have the ability to make these choices or make informed decisions?
Absolutely.
And so your conversation with her about her medication treatment that she had received and what you were proposing as a plan, was she able to engage with you in that conversation?
Yep.
And so when
it was collaborative.
And so when she declined the options that you first offered, did you then present her with alternatives?
I did.
And ultimately, at the end of the day, whose choice is it as to what medication regimen person would be on?
The patient.
And why is that?
Because they have autonomy in their decisions. I'm only making recommendations based on my education, experience, training, what I'm seeing in terms of symptoms. The patient has the autonomy.
Are there instances where you're dealing with a patient where you have concerns that they shouldn't have autonomy? Or that, maybe if I rephrase that question, are there instances where you're dealing with a patient where you're concerned that they don't have the ability to make the right choice for themselves?
There would be, yeah.
And what options do you have in those instances?
In those instances, I mean, that sort of comes down to like competency, capacity to make decisions. Sometimes we might get our legal or ethics team like involved to make a determination about whether this patient needs like a healthcare proxy to make their decisions, things like that.
And what about if a person presents with a very serious risk to their own physical health or the health of others? What are your options then?
I guess it would depend, you know, if they had capacity to make their decisions.
In your interaction with her on November 29th, did you also go through with her and perform a mental screening test or a mental status screening?
I did.
And why do you do that?
It gives me some like objective data of how the patient presents, like how is their speech, how's their appearance, what is their thought process, what's their thought content, things of that nature.
And in this meeting on November 29th of 2022, did you observe anything in which she displayed manic symptoms?
No.
And what traditionally are manic symptoms that you look for?
So there's a new mnemonic called DIGFAST. Try to do this quick. D is distractibility. Patient is highly distracted. to lots of extraneous stimuli. There is pressured speech, grandiosity. So like suddenly someone's like, I'm going to run for office. I'm going to be the president. And you're like, okay, you've never had an interest in that before. Sleep is really poor. So somebody might get like 2 hours of sleep, but be like, go, 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 go. Increased goal-directed activity. So somebody might be like painting the exterior of their house, painting the interior of their house. They might be, doing a bunch of different projects with no like decompression time or feeling tired. Those are the general symptoms of mania. Sometimes there can be psychosis associated with it as well.
Okay, and so when you say mania and psychosis, are those two different things?
Yes.
And so are you also looking in these screenings to identify signs of psychosis?
Absolutely.
And what would be signs of psychosis usually?
Signs of psychosis, they can be sort of subtle. It might look like somebody's like responding to, stimuli in their head, like based on the way that their eyes are kind of tracking and they're not really paying attention. They may be quite guarded. They may have a delusional thought process. Like, for example, they might think that like somebody's out to get them when there's really no like basis.
When you say responding to internal stimuli, is that generally when a person hears things, auditory hallucinations,
Yes.
or sees things that aren't there,
Correct.
visual hallucinations? And in addition to kind of watching for these things in your interaction, do you flat out ask somebody if they're experiencing those symptoms?
I do.
And in this first interaction that you had with Lindsay Clancy on 11/29, did she display any psychotic symptoms?
No.
What about assessing for suicidality? Do you do that as
do.
well? And what do you do for that?
I generally ask, are you having any thoughts of wanting to hurt yourself or anybody else? And if the answer is yes, it sort of becomes a more in-depth assessment.
Do you go back and ask them about past thoughts,
Yes.
whether they've articulated that? And in this case with Ms. Clancy, did she ever indicate whether she had a history of having suicidal thoughts or suicidal ideation?
She did not.
And how about homicidal ideation? Do you ask about that?
I do.
And in this instance, did she indicate whether she had any homicidal ideation or thoughts of harming other people?
No.
And as far as your observations of her presentation, like her mood and physically how she presented, did anything stand out to you as far as any of that?
She seemed anxious.
Okay.
Can I remember?
Okay, so as far as mood,
So I couldn't hear that.
If you can finish your answer.
Sure, you done with that?
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay, all right.
so as far as mood, you noted her to be anxious, right?
Yes.
And you also look at a person's affect. And did you?
You're gonna have to answer yes or no.
Yes. Sorry.
You observed her affect to be consistent with her mood, which you identified as anxious, right? And you examined somebody for
Yes.
their,
Sorry.
that's okay, thought process, right?
Right.
And what did you observe her thought process to be?
I observed her thought process to be linear, meaning you could follow it, her train of thought easily, and goal-directed. She understood that she was there to be assessed for treatment. It seemed to be her goal.
And do you also perform other screenings like the generalized anxiety depression scale and the Edinburgh scale?
I do.
And did you do that for Lindsay Clancy on November 29th?
I did.
And what were the results of those screens?
Her Edinburgh, so the Edinburgh scale is out of 30. She was 17.
What does that mean?
Moderate to severe symptoms, postpartum depression.
Now, with that particular screening tool that you can use, is it fair to say that with postpartum women, it often fluctuates?
It can. That it's asked. The patient is asked about the previous 7 days.
And as far as the generalized anxiety depression scale, what were the results of that screen?
May I look? 14 out of a total of 21.
And so what does that mean?
That would mean moderately severe anxiety.
And do you recall about how much or how long your interaction with her was on this telehealth visit?
It would have been 30 minutes.
And as a result of your interaction with her, did you come up with a plan moving forward as to what to do to address her issues or her concerns?
Yes.
What was the plan?
Continue Remeron 15 milligrams nightly, Ativan as needed. Those medications had been prescribed to her already. I did not write her any prescriptions at that visit.
And again, you indicated that you kind of encouraged her to stick with the Remeron and give it a chance to work.
Yes.
Was she receptive to doing that?
Yes.
And as far as, again, the sleep issue, based on your conversation with her and her request to continue with the Ativan, that's what you recommended?
Yes.
Did you also recommend other types of treatment that were not pharmacological?
Yes.
And what were those?
I recommended therapy, mindfulness, physical activity, meditation.
And you're aware that in the past she had reported physical activity was something that had been helpful to her?
Yes, I believe with her postpartum period with Dawson, her middle child, she had some anxiety, but it seemed to resolve with exercise in particular.
And fair to say, as it pertains to that experience, her postpartum with Dawson, she had reported at some point to the clinic that she had sought medication after having Dawson and that she didn't end up taking that medication, right?
Correct.
Now, after this particular follow-up, what's your practice when you're dealing with a patient to have them have an intervention if they need to get in touch with you or they have concerns before your next scheduled meeting?
I generally advise for non-emergencies, you can message me on the Epic portal.
Is that generally referred to as My Chart?
My chart, yeah.
And so My Chart, you could kind of go back and forth with messages, right?
Yes.
Did you encourage Lindsay to utilize My Chart if she felt the need to reach out to you before your next scheduled appointment?
Yes.
And at the end of that meeting, what was the plan for the next scheduled appointment? What was the track that you would ask her to be on as far as regular visits?
1 week.
And is that typical, 1 week?
1 to 2 weeks would be typical for a new patient.
And based on her report of symptoms or potential symptoms, was it important to you to identify if there were any changes?
Absolutely.
Now, were you aware by the time that meeting was completed that she did have an appointment scheduled with the social worker at your clinic, Letitia Dukes, for December 2nd?
I was aware of that, yes.
Now, after this meeting, so this was approximately 10:30 in the morning on 11/29, right?
Yes.
Did you have communication or contact with Lindsay Clancy on November 30th?
I did.
How did you have contact with her on that day?
She messaged me on the My Chart portal.
And you're aware that on that particular morning, Julie had informed her that she was leaving?
Yes.
Or were you aware, I should say?
Yes.
Now, when Lindsay messaged you, that was at 11 a.m. That was the first message, correct?
I would have to look at the note for the time.
Okay. Do you have those?
I do have the messages. I believe that'll be accurate. It was 11 a.m., yep.
And did she ask you something specific in that message?
She did.
What did she ask you?
She asked me if it would be safe to stop taking Remeron after 5 nights.
So you had just met with her on November 29th
Correct.
and talked about stopping Remeron, or talked about the concerns with Remeron.
We talked about continuing it on the 29th, yes.
But as far as the starting of that meeting, or where you were talking with her about the medication, she had already reported concerns with that medication, right?
Yes.
And so you encouraged her to stick with it, and then the next day, she's asking to stop again.
Yes.
Do you recall that in that message, she indicated that in the course of that night, that the depression, she felt like the depression was much, much worse and not helping her sleep, and that she only got 2 hours?
Yes.
And she asked for a phone call from you, right?
Yes.
And did you call her back, or did you message her back?
I messaged her back, but I also believe I had my nurse call her back because I was in between patients.
Okay. And so when you messaged her back, what did you ask her about to address that concern about stopping the Remeron after 5 nights?
I asked her what symptoms of depression did she notice was worsening,
And why did you do that?
because she had mentioned that she felt that she was more depressed. She was attributing it to the medication.
But in her original message, did she give you any detail about what was worse?
Yeah, no, she did not, sorry.
Is it important to you to know what symptoms are worse so that you know how to advise the patient?
Absolutely.
And did you again express to her a concern with stopping that particular medication after the short period of time she had been on it?
Yes, I shared with her that from what I understood, there had been really short medication trials since October, a short course of the Zoloft, a short course of Trazodone, and now what would be a short course of the Remeron. And I reiterated that sometimes it can take 4 to 6 weeks before these treatments start to work.
Okay. And you also knew from Julie Paul that she had only taken Prozac for approximately 4 days.
Correct.
So even though you gave her that information and encouraged her to stay with it, did you suggest an alternative?
I did.
And why did you suggest an alternative?
At this point, I'm trying to establish a therapeutic relationship with her as a patient. So I had met with her on the 29th. She's concerned about the mirtazapine. I'm kind of asking her to hang with me on it and give it a chance. But then the next day, she's asking me again that she really doesn't like it. So at this point, I'm trying to kind of give her an alternative to establish a collaborative therapeutic relationship.
And at the end of the day, if you prescribe a medication and the patient doesn't want to take it,
Right.
you don't know if they're going to take it, right?
Exactly.
So what was the alternative you suggested?
I had suggested Prozac again just because I had known that she had taken it in like 2012 whenever she was in nursing school, and she was able to take it for a year, and she tolerated it okay. So I was kind of thinking maybe we could try to get you to retrial it, and it would be helpful.
And in making that recommendation to potentially restart it, had you reviewed the notes from Julie Paul in which the defendant, or Lindsay Clancy, indicated that when she took the Prozac, she felt disconnected, and that she was concerned about that, and that Julie had told her to stop it?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But you still felt that it was worth giving it another try?
Mm-hmm.
And did you suggest anything else to pair with the Prozac to help sleep?
I did.
What did you suggest?
I recommended Seroquel, 25 milligrams.
And now, Seroquel, is that a drug that you're familiar with?
I am.
And in your practice, especially dealing with women's health, perinatal issues, what would a low dose of Seroquel accomplish for a woman postpartum?
To get them to sleep.
And you are aware that Seroquel at higher doses could be used to treat other types of mental illnesses?
Yes.
But in this circumstance and with this recommendation, what was the purpose of the Seroquel?
So at this stage, my awareness was that she had tried a first-line option, which would be the benzodiazepine. The second-line options are usually what we call the sedating antidepressants, like trazodone, Remeron. So this would be more like a third-line option to try.
And is that because trazodone, she reported, didn't help her?
Didn't help.
And she didn't like the feeling on Remeron?
Right.
And so ultimately in that message, you kind of reiterated what your overall recommendations were, right?
Yes.
And it was to continue with the Remeron for another 10 days, and that the alternative would be to restart Prozac and add the 25 milligrams of Seroquel nightly for anxiety and insomnia. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
And so were you recommending that she be on all of those at the same time? That she do the Remeron, the Seroquel, the Prozac?
Yes.
And in your experience in psychiatric care and prescribing medication, is it a common practice to pair low doses or doses of particular types of medications together to effectively manage a person's symptoms?
At this clinical juncture, my thought was the combination of Remeron with the Prozac to treat the depression with prominent anxiety, the Seroquel to help alleviate the sleep.
And you're also addressing the concern of benzodiazepine dependency, right?
Correct.
Did you encourage her to do something to help you to kind of manage her treatment track going forward?
Yes.
What did you encourage her to do?
I had noticed that Lindsay was attributing a lot of her symptoms to her medication. And so I attached to the MyChart message 2 different mood charts. And what those one was daily, one is weekly. What it is it asks the patient each day to rate their mood from like 0 to 3. Good mood, bad mood, normal mood. It asks about like, did you take your medications? What doses? What were they? Check the box. How many hours a night did you sleep? What's your anxiety level? What's irritability? And what I wanted from that was, because it had all those parameters about mood and then also the medication, did you take it? We'd be able to track over time what the progression was. Was it getting worse since we started the medication? Was it actually getting better? I just wanted more data.
And were you aware that she was actually tracking those things herself?
No.
Now, you continued to have some back and forth messages with her throughout the course of the day on November 30th, correct?
Correct.
So we have, she reached out to you at 11. You responded to her at 11:52.
Yes.
There's another message from her at 12:15, right?
Yes.
And just going back for a second, when you were asking her about worsening symptoms, did you ask specifically about suicidal symptoms?
I did.
And why those, if she was expressing some depression and sleep issues?
Suicidal thoughts can be a symptom of depression, and I just wanted to make sure I assessed that one because of its severity.
And is that something that's important to do before you make a recommendation to change a medication?
Yes.
Now, when she responded at 12:15, did she tell you anything about the suicidal thoughts, or if she was having any?
She said she's not at the point of being suicidal.
Okay. She also indicated, but I'm really feeling as if I can't go on like this, right?
Right.
And she asked you to call in the Seroquel.
She did ask me to call in the Seroquel, yes.
So based on her response, did you feel that she was taking the alternative that you were offering?
Yes.
And then at 12:29 p.m., you get another message from her where she asks for a phone call, right?
Yes.
And again, at that point, did you have a phone call with her, or did you continue to interact with her on the MyChart portal?
I interacted with her on the MyChart between patients, and I had my nurse give her a call.
And again, you said in between patients, so did you have the opportunity to pick up the phone and call?
I did not.
Okay. And is that one of the benefits of the messaging portal, that you can get back to somebody quicker?
Yes.
So when, before you were able to respond, did she send you some additional messages on MyChart, if you remember? Or if you could look at your notes.
Okay. I see that the symptoms of depression that she reported.
Yep, so just drawing your attention to 12:58 p.m.
Yes.
You get another message from her where she says, the symptoms of depression that are much worse are just feeling completely hopeless and unmotivated to do anything at all. And that she says, I printed the daily mood chart and we'll start it. Now, you said that you did ask your nurse to give her a phone call at some point, and so you're aware that a nurse did call her on November 30th at approximately 3:10 p.m.
Yes.
And that during that phone call that Lindsay agreed to the plan and that she was going to pick up the Seroquel.
Yes.
Now, at that point, you had another meeting scheduled with her for a week out, right? But
Yes.
prior to that, did you also continue to communicate with her via MyChart?
Yes.
So moving into December 1st, again, were you able to send her a message?
She sent me a message on December 1st, and I did reply to it.
Okay, so December 1st at 12:20 p.m., we have a message from Lindsay Clancy. Hi, Rebecca. I really don't like the way I feel on the Remeron, and I know that I can't stick with it, or I can't stick with taking it. I started having very intrusive thoughts that I never had before. I didn't take it last night. I would really like to go back to Julie's original plan of Prozac in the morning and using Ativan and Benadryl at night as a Band-Aid until I get to a therapeutic level of Prozac. Please let me know if you agree with this plan. I know that I need to give it a good couple of weeks to work. Is that the message that you first received on December 1st?
It was.
And were you aware that that same day that Lindsay had reached out to her primary care physician asking for an immediate appointment with her nurse practitioner?
I was.
And that she was looking to discuss medications?
Yes.
Do you know if she actually got an appointment or went to the appointment there?
They had reached out to her, and she did not respond to their voicemails or MyChart messages, so she did not see them that day, to my knowledge.
So you're able to review the notes from the network of South Shore Health, right?
Correct, yes.
So you were able to review that she asked for an emergency appointment. They were able to find her an emergency appointment, but she didn't get back in enough time to actually get there.
Correct.
And so in the meantime, you're having a back and forth with her during the course of that day, December 1st.
Yes.
When she indicated to you in this message on December 1st about having intrusive thoughts and not liking the Remeron and not taking it, what was your response?
I sent her a detailed message of signs and symptoms of postpartum depression and anxiety, including factors like onset, risk factors, predictors, common symptoms, and it highlighted how intrusive thoughts are quite common in postpartum depression and anxiety, and I asked her, I'm wondering if that's what's going on here. I then asked her if she was able to take the Seroquel that night and if she noticed any improvement in terms of sleep or anxiety with the Seroquel.
Now, by giving her this information about postpartum depression and postpartum anxiety, was that consistent with a diagnosis that either you or Julie had given her in coming into the clinic?
Yes, we were thinking this could be some postpartum anxiety, and I wanted to familiarize her with the symptoms so that she had them written down and she could report them to me and understand that they are part of these disorders.
And you also gave her some information about obsessions and compulsions, right? And you said you asked her about the Seroquel and asked about sleep, right?
Yes.
And did you also reiterate that you were still encouraging to keep up with the Remeron for a period of time?
Yes.
And you further indicated to her that you wanted to kind of see if there was a correlation between the symptoms and the medication and that you just didn't have enough data.
Right.
In response to that message, she actually responded at 2:36 on December 1st, correct?
Yes.
And she indicated, thank you for the information, it was helpful. That she says, I panicked last night and just took Ativan and Benadryl, but tonight I'll stick with the plan and try the 15 of Remeron and the 25 of Seroquel. Do you recall if you had ever had a conversation with her about kind of using Ativan and Benadryl as a backup, or if she just felt like she wasn't getting any relief?
I recall having a conversation about using the Ativan as a backup. I believe it was, yes, in my initial, I said continue the Remeron and the Ativan as needed.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what about the Benadryl?
The Benadryl I don't recall discussing.
But you were aware that she had reported the combination of Ativan and Benadryl had worked for her before.
Right.
And in that message, she also says, I'm sorry for all the messages. It's just a scary, very scary, stressful time for me. And starting new... postpartum depression.
Correct. I said it sounds more like depression than side effects. It's not uncommon for me to hear, I've never felt anything like this before, or I just don't feel like myself. All of this sounds like postpartum depression.
And did you further try to give her some encouraging words?
I shared a passage from a book called This Isn't What I Expected.
And is that book kind of centered around postpartum depression?
Yes.
And did you also tell her this is going to get better?
I said, even though they feel terrible, remember that they're symptoms of an illness that is very real and very treatable. This is going to get better.
And after that message on 12/12, did you in fact send her another message?
I did.
And fair to say that next message was to kind of address the concern about her question, what to take.
Yes.
And you confirmed to take 15 milligrams Remeron, 10 milligrams Prozac, and 50 milligrams Seroquel.
Yes.
And that taking Ativan every other day might help.
I said, I would say taking Ativan every other day might help you to see you are not addicted, as one cannot be addicted to something they don't take every day, but we can also decide to let me be concerned about whether you have a problem with the Ativan and simply take it nightly for now. And if I have concerns about your use of it, I will make them apparent to you. My primary concern at this time is that you sleep, and if that means taking the Ativan for middle of the night wake-ups, that is what it means. I'm confident we can safely and successfully get you off Ativan in the near future. And then I also go on to make recommendations about if she does have trouble in the middle of the night, certain sleep hygiene techniques that she could do, like getting out of bed and doing something non-stimulating, and then go back down to try to sleep again when you feel drowsy.
So an alternative as to medication intervention.
Yeah.
And then at 1:40 p.m., she responds, "Thank you. I'll stick with that plan. I really hope it works and to feel like myself soon." Right?
Yes.
And then at 2:35, you respond, "We will follow you closely. We have lots of alternatives. If this for some reason isn't the combination, we'll find one that gets you back to feeling like yourself."
I did say that, yes.
In all your treatment of women, the women that you've treated with postpartum depression, is this common that you have to kind of trial different plans in order to find the right one?
Yes.
All right, Ms. Buckingham, it's 11 o'clock. Why don't we take the morning recess at this time, all right?
Thank you.
So we'll take the break.
Court, all rise. Jurors, try and close your notebooks. Make some noise, chairs, please. This way.
Court is back in session. You may be seated.
I do appreciate you so thorough.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. All set for the jury?
Yes, ma'am.
Bring in the jurors when you're ready.
Court, all rise. Jurors entering. This court's now in session. Please be seated.
Your Honor, for the purpose of the record, we return back to the matter Commonwealth versus Lindsay Clancy. All parties are present, including the 18 jurors.
All right. Ms. Buckingham, please.
Thank you. Nurse Gelato, when we broke, we were talking about your interactions via my chart with Lindsay Clancy on December 2nd of 2022, right?
Yes.
And so the last one on December 2nd at 2:35 p.m. was from you to her. And then on December 3rd, do you recall that a My Chart message was sent on that day at 7:24 p.m.?
I do.
And you were able to review that message some point after it was sent?
I was.
And she reports to you basically that she didn't want to wait to let you know some things that were fresh in her mind. And it says, last night I didn't take Ativan. My dose had been the night before at 1 a.m., only slept about 4 hours at the beginning of the night, about 9:30 to 1:45. Then I dozed off for maybe another 45 minutes from 4:30 to 5. Today, all day, I had horrible, intrusive thoughts and felt deeply depressed. I finally took a 0.5 of Ativan at 6 p.m., and now the thoughts are gone, and I feel good. You recall receiving that message?
I do.
Okay. And fair to say there was no more communication between you and her until December 6th.
Correct. I believe December 3rd was a Saturday.
And you actually were out of the office on the 5th with sickness.
I was.
But you were aware that Lindsay Clancy did reach out to the office on December 5th.
Yes.
And that the nurse was able to respond to her to let her know that you were out sick, right?
Yes.
And Lindsay Clancy responds at 8:30 a.m. that day that that she would just reschedule. Lindsay reaches out to the nurse and says that's fine, she'll reschedule, and that she, in fact, changed her appointment with Letitia Dukes to a virtual appointment for that day, for December 5th.
Yes.
So on the 6th, when you return, did you have a scheduled meeting with Lindsay Clancy?
Yes.
And on this particular meeting on December 6th of 2022, do you recall if that was an in-person or a virtual visit?
It was an office visit.
Okay.
In person.
And so just kind of looking at the note from that day, from December 6th, it says encounter date December 6th. It says filed on December 7th. In the under chief complaint history, do you have it in front of you?
Yes.
The second paragraph says patient has verbally consented to this video visit. Is that just something that sometimes pre-fills into the narrative?
Yes.
But your memory was that this was an in-person visit.
It was.
Was Lindsay Clancy there by herself or with somebody else?
She brought in her husband, Patrick.
Had you met him before?
I had not.
Had you talked to him before?
I had not.
As part of your treatment plan or your course of treatment with Lindsay Clancy, was it your practice to speak with collateral individuals?
Yes.
And in this instance, did you feel a need to speak to collateral individuals up to this point?
Not up to this point.
If you did, would you have requested that of her?
Yes.
And do you need her express permission to do that?
I do.
So on this particular day, she presented with her husband, Patrick, correct?
Correct.
And was there anything different about your approach to the meeting than your previous meetings with her?
No.
You still go through history, you go through how she's doing now, you do your mental status exam, you do your screenings, right?
Yes.
And so first, just let's talk quickly about the screenings. The Edinburgh screen, what was her score on this day when she came in? Do you remember?
21.
Okay. And the GAD-7, fair to say that screen was a 19.
Yes.
So would you say that it was pretty consistent with the last time that you saw her?
Objection.
What's your objection?
My objection is that that's not right. He's now got a 21 Edinburgh scale. Prior testimony was not anywhere near 21. It's deteriorated.
Well, I'm gonna allow that question. On cross-examination, you can certainly explore the basis of what her opinion was. So I'm going to allow that question. Go ahead, Como.
Well, let me ask you about that score of 21. It's 21 out of how much?
30.
So in what range is that?
Moderate severe.
Okay. And on your previous encounter with her on, or your actual telehealth on November 29th, you reported that the score was 17, and that's moderate.
Moderate. Yep.
And then on the GAD-7, on this particular day on December 6th, it was 19, right?
Yes.
And on the previous visit, it was 14.
Yes.
Okay. So as far as your observations of her on December 6th, did you notice anything different about her speech and language?
No.
How about her mood? What did you note her mood to be?
Anxious.
And the affect, fair to say, consistent with mood, meaning anxious, right?
Yes.
And thought process.
Thought process was linear and goal-directed.
And thought content, did she indicate to you whether she was experiencing any auditory or visual hallucinations?
No.
Any delusions?
No.
Any suicidal ideation, a plan, or intent?
No.
And as far as your observations of her during this interaction, this in-person visit, did you observe any signs of psychosis?
No.
Did you observe any signs of mania?
No.
Did you observe any signs of obsessive thoughts or compulsive behaviors?
No.
Now, when you met with Lindsay and Patrick on December 6th, did she or did they report why Patrick was there?
I don't recall if they indicated why he was there. I understood it to mean he was there to provide collateral and support for her.
Were you aware that he was coming to the appointment?
I don't recall if I was aware beforehand or not.
And you had engaged in a pretty significant my chart back and forth with her in the days preceding this this meeting on December 6th, right?
Yes.
Did she ever indicate to you Did she ever indicate to you in those messages that she wished to bring him along to one of the visits?
No.
Fair to say, when a person brings a collateral and is willing to have somebody speak, you're more than happy to get that information.
Absolutely.
This person, this collateral person, can they offer you a different perspective about the patient and what they're going through or what they're, how they're presenting?
Yes.
In this December 6th meeting, or the visit, did she report to you some changes in her sleep or significant concern for sleep?
I would have to review the note. What I remember is that the sleep really hadn't improved much beyond getting a few hours, waking up in the middle of the night, maybe piecing together more time.
And fair to say, there was some conversation to go back and talk about when symptoms started and try to get to kind of the root cause or what they believe the root cause of her symptoms were.
Yes.
And did Lindsay and Patrick report to you the connection with the Zoloft medication in September as a concern?
Yes.
And that at that they reported that, or she reported, that exact night I went from 25 to 50 milligrams. I didn't sleep for 48 hours and I wasn't tired.
Correct.
So that's in your note as a quote, meaning that's directly what she told you?
Yes.
Did you express to the Clancy on this particular meeting Did you express to Ms. Clancy thoughts that you had about her diagnosis based on your interactions over the last few weeks?
I did.
And what was that?
I discussed with her and her husband the possibility of potentially an underlying bipolar disorder. I based this on several factors, one of them being that she had such what we call an activating response to the Zoloft. It's unusual for somebody to describe taking Zoloft and then going 48 hours without sleep and not being tired. So that raised my clinical suspicion a bit. And she had been, I would say, having difficulty tolerating other antidepressant medications that we had been trying to have her take since then. And so again, I'm wondering if it's because potentially there might be an underlying, what we call mood disorder, bipolar disorder.
And as far as the information that you had about her past psychiatric history, were there any indicators to you about manic episodes?
No. So I do recall in reviewing Julie's note prior to meeting with Lindsay, she filled out what we call a mood disorder questionnaire. It's like a screener somebody can do to assess history of mania and bipolar disorder. Lindsay it was a negative screen. So there's 3 questions. One question has 13 different symptoms. You have to score 7 out of 13 on question 1, but also in question 2, it asks about, are the symptoms happening at the same period of time? And then it asks about any functional impairment from the symptoms. So I recall the 3 symptoms she did endorse were not sleeping for that period of time with the Zoloft and not feeling tired, having racing thoughts, and trouble concentrating. None of the other symptoms did she endorse. They did occur at the same period of time. And I don't want to be inaccurate, so I can't remember what she said for functional impairment, but I believe it was minor impairment.
Okay, and so the fact that those were reported, but ultimately the full screen revealed negative for potential mania.
I did also consider, though, that the MDQ is less specific when it comes to bipolar 2 or bipolar not otherwise specified. There's bipolar 1 and bipolar 2. Both have mania symptoms as part of the diagnosis. Bipolar 1 is usually more severe in that it's typically, a patient might be hospitalized or it causes greater functional impairment. Bipolar 2, it's a shorter duration and typically less functional impairment.
And as far as determining diagnostically whether somebody might be presenting with bipolar disorder, is there a particular tool you use in your trade to try to assess that?
Typically something like the MDQ, and then you'll do more of an interview asking the patient about symptoms specifically and if they can ever recall a time where this may have happened in the past, because sometimes patients can't always remember when they're manic. So I was glad to actually have Patrick in the visit because he could sort of help us look at Lindsay's history more longitudinally, or at least since the time he knew her.
Okay. And as far as, so those tools that you're talking about, the MDQ and kind of screening tools that you use in practice, is there another tool that you use to assess whether a person meets particular criteria to be diagnosed with bipolar 1 or bipolar 2?
There are others, not ones that I've used.
So are you familiar with the DSM-5?
Oh, yes.
Okay, so while that's not the end-all be-all. It is a guide that tells you specific criteria, how to determine if episodes are manic or depressive, right, when it comes to bipolar.
Yes.
The difference between mania and hypomania.
Yes.
And so while you noted that there were some concerns reported, did what was reported to you rise to the level of diagnostic criteria for bipolar disorder?
Not at that time.
And when you explained this to them, your thoughts about her reactions to the medication and these reported prior symptoms, did Patrick and Lindsay seem receptive to your diagnosis?
I recall Patrick saying my wife is not bipolar. Lindsay looked at me. She did not say anything.
Okay. And was this the first time in this meeting on December 6th where you broached that issue or mentioned that?
Yes.
Did the conversation continue about symptoms and managing symptoms after that?
Yes.
Were you able to get any more specific information from Patrick during that meeting? Not what he said particularly, but did you get additional specific information that kind of helped you assess whether you would change your diagnosis at that point?
No.
And were there still concerns in that particular meeting that the focus was trouble sleeping and the potential for addiction?
Yes.
As far as recommendations, did you talk about what's called tapering medication?
Yes.
And what were your recommendations regarding tapering?
So we talked about her concerns about the benzos. And we decided to come up with a plan to taper off of them.
And the last that had been reported to you via the MyChart messages was that she tried not taking it at all, ended up having horrible thoughts and felt deeply depressed, then took it and felt better, right? So was it realistic to recommend completely stopping?
No.
So what is a taper? Like, why do you recommend tapers?
I recommend tapers to slowly get somebody off of something. And tapers can be useful because we might have somebody at a dose and they might say, oh, I'm too anxious to stop this, or I'm not ready to step down to another level, and we can kind of keep them on it longer. But at this point, since I had met her on November 29th and throughout the MyChart messages, there was multiple concerns voiced about benzodiazepines. And again, in this visit, so I even did what's called a CWA assessment, which is something we use to determine if somebody's having actual withdrawal from benzodiazepines or alcohol. Again, I really wanted to show her I was assessing this and taking this seriously.
When you say CWA assessment, is that an acronym for something?
Yes, so it's
What are the letters, just for the record?
CIWA.
Okay. And did you, when you do that assessment, does it give you some sort of score?
It does.
Ask the questions. And what was her score when you did that CIWA assessment?
1.
And what does that mean?
Minimal to no withdrawal. The only symptom she reported was anxiety. Her blood pressure was normal. Her pulse was normal. She had no nausea, no vomiting, no tremor, no tactile disturbances. People in withdrawal from benzos or alcohol will sometimes feel like there's bugs crawling or pins and needles. Auditory disturbances, so hearing things, seeing things. No sweats, no headache. She was oriented.
Okay. So with that, and knowing that she wasn't in withdrawals for Ativan, did you still recommend the taper and an alternative?
I did.
What was that?
I recommended Valium. The reason I recommended this is she had discussed rebound anxiety with me at our very first visit, feeling that rebound anxiety above her baseline once the benzo wears off. Valium has an extremely long half-life. It can, as in like 100 hours. It has a longer clinical duration of action. So I wanted to offset the chance that she would experience rebound anxiety. And it's often used when we're tapering somebody on shorter acting benzos. It's common practice to switch to longer acting benzos to do this.
And did you also have conversations about the other medications that had been at issue, the mirtazapine and the Seroquel?
Yes.
What did the defendant, what did Lindsay Clancy express to you as far as Seroquel? Did she want to continue with that?
No.
Did she explain why?
So she felt like when she took Remron and Seroquel together, she felt weighed down and exhausted, but her mind was still awake and alert, and she just didn't seem to think there was a benefit to being on it.
And so did she express to you a desire to want to go back to trialing Prozac?
Both Lindsay and her husband expressed that that was their preference.
And was that something that you agreed with?
I did. I had shared with them that I had concern this could be bipolar. It's in my differential diagnosis, which is just all the typical diagnoses we might be considering. And that typically SSRIs are contraindicated, but she did have that history of being able to tolerate Prozac at 20 milligrams and do okay with no mania. So I thought that's what they were wanting to do, so we could do it. We could try it.
When you say contraindication,
Okay, sorry.
what does that mean?
It means typically not something you would want to do if you were sure somebody had bipolar disorder, because if you put somebody on just an SSRI or like Prozac, like Zoloft, it can create a scenario where people are flipping back and forth between manic symptoms and depressed symptoms, or they're called rapid cycling. It's not that antidepressants or SSRIs are never prescribed in bipolar disorder, but you often would want to have a mood stabilizer on board at the same time.
And so, despite your suspicions, you listened to the patient and went along with her request.
Yes.
So at the conclusion of that meeting, did you indicate that she could discontinue the Seroquel at that point?
Yes.
With the plan that she was going to restart Prozac?
Yes. Which I had been recommending the Prozac. Earlier, I believe even on November 30th, I had recommended it.
And with that previous recommendation, it was in addition to the Seroquel.
And the Remron, yes.
So after this meeting, on December 6th, did you have additional communications with Lindsay Clancy via the MyChart messaging on December 7th?
Yes.
And fair to say that those communications started as early as 9:48 a.m. when she sent the first message, right?
Let me just make sure. Oh, yes. Yes.
So on December 7th at 9:48 a.m., she sends a message saying, "Hi, Rebecca, last night did not go well. at all. I took the Valium and melatonin and slept only slept from 9 to 1. Then around 2, I got desperate and took 25 milligrams of Benadryl and only slept about 1 more hour. What can I do? I really need help. So that was the message that you came into on December 7th, right?
Yes,
And did you respond to her in the messaging app?
I did.
And what was the response?
I'm trying to find the sequence.
At 10:19 a.m.
I think it's cut off. Okay, so I discussed, I mentioned, so your husband made a good point yesterday. Despite taking the Ativan in the evening, you were still only able to get a 5-hour stretch of sleep, which, yes, is improvement, but does sort of dispel the notion that benzodiazepines are the only thing that are helping you sleep right now, as you are still getting less than the target of 6 to 8 hours with Ativan, and the Valium did not help for sleep much at all. My next step in this case is to try a higher dose of Seroquel on its own. Are you feeling any subsequent loss of energy, exhaustion, fatigue with lack of sleep?
Why would it be the next step to increase from 75 of Seroquel to 100?
So she had been taking 50, so I was suggesting 75 to 100 would be my next step, because again, bipolar is still on my differentials, and now I have the data that she only slept 2 hours. So I asked her the follow-up question, are you feeling tired, or are you feeling exhausted? Any subsequent loss of energy? It's still in the back of my mind that this could be bipolar.
So as far as the Seroquel goes at that point, creeping up the dosage, do you get now from the using it to treat insomnia to using it to treat something else like bipolar?
Correct.
And so that piece of it about feeling subsequent loss of energy and exhaustion, fatigue, why ask that?
Patients can have insomnia because they're anxious or because they're depressed, but typically they're exhausted or they're tired the next day, and it really does affect them. If a patient has an underlying bipolar, they could go on 2 hours of sleep and not feel tired at all, and that's unusual.
And so that is one of the signs, potentially, of a manic episode?
Potentially, yes.
So on December 7th at 10:33, she responds, no, the weird thing is I don't feel tired at all. And she says, so just Seroquel tonight, ? I feel like I'm going to panic without a benzo with it. And then again at 11:44, another message, would I be able to do the Valium with Seroquel? Is that a safe option? So again, in this exchange with her in my chart, she's asking you questions to clarify what you've said and also alternatives to address the issue, right?
Right.
And as far as her questions go, and then her response about not feeling tired, how did you respond in the message?
So she kind of sent those in succession. So I don't feel tired, would I be able to do the Valium with the Seroquel? So I respond by, if you're not sleeping well with the Valium alone, there's no need to continue it, and I will prescribe a short taper to get you off benzos altogether. Because you are not tired at all and had a significant reaction to Zoloft at 50 milligrams, I'm concerned this is an underlying mood and bipolar disorder. I know you and your husband did not necessarily agree with that, but I feel that I'm going to send along this information to review. So I sent her a list of symptoms of bipolar, risk factors, so that she could have it to refer to.
And again, at this point, the only symptom she was reporting of mania was this not being able to sleep and not feeling tired, right?
And yes, and the racing thoughts and the trouble concentrating.
Okay, is that things that she had reported to you in your visit on the 6th?
No.
Okay. In these messages that she was sending to you in her, on December 7th, she didn't talk about racing thoughts, did she?
No.
Okay, she just talked about the sleep? Mm-hmm. Okay. But based on a review of her history, she had at one point indicated that she was feeling those in relation to a symptom she was describing. Is that
Correct.
so? At this point, what do you recommend her to do?
I explained the importance of knowing if this is bipolar is significant because SSRIs like Zoloft and even Prozac would be contraindicated. My recommendation is to do 100 milligrams of Seroquel tonight, 200 milligrams of Seroquel tomorrow night, 300 milligrams on 12/9, 400 on 12/10, and we will hold there. I actually say hold the Prozac as I'm concerned this is a hypomanic mixed manic state.
And what about the Remeron at that point? Where did this fall into the mix, if it fell in at all?
I had recommended a very short taper on December 6th. I think I advised her to take half of a 7.5 milligram tablet for 3 nights, but in her message to me on December 7th, she had not taken it that night. So I had assumed she had just stopped that entirely.
Okay. Now, after you sent that message at 12:32, did she respond at 2:53, indicating that she would stick with that plan and that she said she needed a refill on the Seroquel because she only had 30 25 milligram tablets?
There were actually, she did say that. There were actually a few earlier messages as well that day. I provided an alternative. One as an option, it quickly came into my mind, oh, we're thinking about Prozac. We could add Zyprexa on board because there's actually a combination pill of Prozac, Zyprexa. The brand name is Symbyax, and it's for bipolar. And I said, for our purposes, we can prescribe them separately and take them both for the same effect. And I asked her to let me know which one she would prefer. And she responded, I think I would like to do the Seroquel with the Valium taper.
Okay, so that suggested alternative actually was on at 12:37.
Correct.
And then at 1 o'clock, she elects that she'd like to do the Seroquel with the Valium and asks for you to call in the Valium and the Seroquel.
Yes.
So that's on December 7th, right?
Yes.
On December 8th, at 6:35 a.m., she sends you a message saying, did well last night, need Valium, feeling panicky, don't know if ready to taper as quickly as planned.
Yes.
Kind of paraphrasing, but.
Yeah, she exclaimed, I actually did really well last night with the Valium and Seroquel. I mostly slept from 9 to 5 with a few wake-ups, but was able to go back to sleep. She was concerned that she felt like she needed to take the Valium around 5 p.m. because she was feeling panicky. I feel really dependent on it. Can I taper any slower?
And what was your response to her request for a slower taper?
I said, I'm hesitant to taper any slower. Remember, Valium has a really long half-life, 100 hours, so you will have some on board in your system throughout the weekend.
And why were you hesitant to taper any slower?
I felt like she was anxious about being dependent on it, and so I was trying to facilitate the process of tapering her off, and I was clinically thinking we could cover her symptoms of anxiety as we titrated the Seroquel, because Seroquel actually has several clinical trials that show it has really good efficacy for anxiety.
And this conversation about the request to taper, that actually goes into December 9th of 2022, correct?
Yes.
And in her response to your indicating you were hesitant to taper, she indicates that she took the 5 milligrams of Valium and that she didn't have any left and that she was afraid that she was going to take Ativan.
Correct.
And had you recommended to take Ativan as an alternative or in lieu of Valium?
No.
Were there any more communications on that day, December 9th of 2022?
Yes.
What were they?
Later that afternoon, Lindsay and her husband called.
Okay. And so did you, fair to say they called the clinic, leave a message, and then you called them back?
Yes.
And when you called them back, what was the nature of that conversation? What did you guys talk about?
Her symptoms, we discussed that the plan was to taper the Valium over the weekend, but they both agreed that Lindsay's symptoms were too acute. She's sleeping better, but still waking up with panic symptoms and intrusive thoughts, feels numb, has thoughts of SI, but no plan and no intent. I encouraged her to engage with women and infants in Rhode Island to complete an intake for a partial hospitalization program. But she was able to contract for safety over the phone with her, with the three of us on the phone, that she didn't have a plan, no intent, that she would reach out if needed. I did agree to continue the Valium until our next appointment, which was scheduled for 12/13. I prescribed it as 5 milligrams, but I advised her she could take a half tablet twice a day, so 2.5 milligrams twice a day.
So walk me through that. She had she had indicated to you that she wanted to slow the taper.
Yes.
And then you said, no, that wasn't a good idea.
Right.
And then on the 9th, they call you and say that she doesn't want to taper. She wants to stay where she is, right?
I think it was that same day. The messages were earlier in the day, and then later in the afternoon around, it's noted at 16:10, so 4:10 p.m., that she and her husband then called, advocating to stay on.
And in advocating to stay on the Valium, that she reported she's still waking up with panic symptoms and having intrusive thoughts, feeling numb, right?
Yes.
So in addition to agreeing to continue the Valium, did you make a recommendation about the Seroquel?
Continue the titration.
So when you say titration, what does that mean?
So I had recommended 100 on day 1, 200 day 2, 300 day 3, 400 day 4. This is the manufacturer recommended titration schedule to treat manic symptoms, because again, I had shared with her, I think this is a mixed manic hypomanic state. So that's what I was targeting.
Okay, and so as far as Seroquel goes, there's some guidance you get about Seroquel that's put out by the FDA, right?
Correct.
And it talks about dosage and administration for every drug, essentially, right?
Yes.
And as far as Seroquel goes, there is different recommended dosages or ranges for different mental illnesses that you're treating.
Correct.
So in this instance where bipolar is in your differential diagnosis and you're recommending titrate up to 400, is that consistent with the thought that you believe she had bipolar diagnosis?
Right. So I was thinking it was a mixed manic state or possible hypomanic state. A mixed manic state is when patient has symptoms of mania, like poor sleep, no loss of energy, but they also can feel depressed, numb, suicidal. It's sort of like it's a mixed state. It's a mixture of symptoms. A mixed state presentation is clinically acute. It's unstable, so I really wanted to get the manic symptoms under control. I really wanted to get her to sleep.
And so going up slowly to 400 milligrams, what's the recommended dosage range for somebody with bipolar disorder of Seroquel?
For somebody, a manic presentation, you can titrate over days rather than weeks. You can actually go up to 800 milligrams.
And so even though you had previously indicated to them in your December 6th meeting that you were agreeable to discontinuing the Seroquel, based on our presentation in the days following, did you change your recommendation?
Correct.
And with the increased Seroquel that you had requested as of December 9th, she was reporting sleeping better, right?
Correct.
And that had been something that had been a recurring concern in your interactions with her, sleep?
Yes, my understanding was that she had been sleeping poorly since October.
And was there, when you say you were recommending partial hospitalization during that phone call, did you give a particular place in which you would recommend her to try to seek treatment?
Women and infants.
And that's in Rhode Island?
Rhode Island.
And are you familiar with whether they have particular perinatal or postpartum programs there?
They specialize.
After that call with the Clancys on December 9th, when was the next time you had contact with Lindsay?
December 9th was a Friday, so I believe it was Monday, December 12th.
Now, people are able to send my chart messages all hours of the day, every day of the week, right?
Correct.
But in this instance, you did not receive any messages over the weekend?
No.
So the next my chart exchange was actually on December 12th of 2022, correct?
Correct.
Now, on December 12th, do you recall who initiated the contact via my chart?
Lindsay?
And at 1:59 p.m., she sent a message to you saying, I've been noticing on my Apple Watch that my heart rate has been fluctuating more than usual. It has been going from 56 to 136 within a matter of minutes. I'm wondering if this is a side effect of the Seroquel and if there's anything I should do about it. Thanks, Lindsay. Do you remember getting that message?
I do.
And again, at that point, as of December 12th, you had recommended the titration plan going up to 400, right?
Yes.
So by that Monday, where should she have been if she was following your instructions?
400 milligrams.
And did she report to you whether she took 400 milligrams of Seroquel?
She reported she was taking 200 milligrams.
Did she say why?
No.
But your recommendation was that she should have been up to 400 at that point.
At that point, yes.
As far as the concerns about the fluctuating heart rate, were you able to address that with her in a response?
Yes. I explained that medications like Seroquel can cause something called orthostatic hypotension, which is basically when you get up from sitting or standing, your blood pressure doesn't compensate in time, so it goes low, and people can feel dizzy. I explained that the mechanism for that is alpha adrenergic blockade, so the alpha receptors that help us with like adrenaline. They're also part of the picture here with Seroquel. It's often accompanied by orthostatic tachycardia, meaning getting up from sitting to standing, your heart rate can fluctuate. I said both can be common in the first days of medication exposure or when the dose is being increased. It's generally benign, meaning non-harmful, and self-limiting, meaning it goes away on its own over time. I also advise it sometimes necessitates slowing a dose titration or dividing a dose into like 2 or 3 smaller doses.
Okay. And so with this response and trying to address these concerns, you're aware that she had spoken to the nurse that morning?
Correct.
And that she had expressed to the nurse a desire to get off the medications altogether?
Correct.
And what was your response to that concern that she had in the call to the nurse? What did you tell her?
I said, as long as you are aware of the risks, I don't think you've been on Seroquel long enough for it to have a positive benefit on your mood or anxiety, but if you have noticed benefit, the risk would be worsening of mood and anxiety upon stopping the medication. We also discussed tapering off the Valium, which I'm fine with, if you would like me to send along the taper schedule, being off medication might help you see where you are at baseline, but I do think you are experiencing significant and severe symptoms of postpartum depression that needs to be treated. I acknowledge that medication alone is not always the best option for someone, but often it's part of the puzzle. Other treatments include counseling, support from others, exercise, healthy diet, yoga and relaxation techniques. I know this has been brought to your attention several times, but I strongly, strongly recommend a partial hospitalization program so that you can get started on utilizing these treatment methods for relief.
And you were aware at this point, as of December 12th, that she had met with Letitia Dukes at least once, right?
At least once, yes.
She had been given referrals for CBT or cognitive behavioral therapy programs out in the community, in her community, right?
Yes.
There have been other recommendations for her to obtain a partial hospitalization program at that point.
Yes.
Now, anything about these exchanges that made you concerned that you had to kind of raise the level, meaning call her in for another meeting or make any sort of recommendations for inpatient hospitalization?
Not at this junction.
And why is that?
She wasn't reporting any acute safety concerns in these messages at this point.
It's just physical.
Just physical.
Side effects.
Physical side effects, yes.
So the messages continued on December 12th, correct?
Correct.
So at 2:44, Lindsay messages you saying, "Thank you, Rebecca. It does seem to be orthostatic, and I'm glad to hear that it's benign and known side effect." And then she tells you a little bit more about the prior nights, right? So she says, "So the last 3 nights I've taken 2.5 milligrams of Valium and 200 of Seroquel. I have to say that I do like the way it makes me sleep very deeply and soundly for around 7 to 8 hours, but I don't like the way I feel in the morning and most of the day. Incredibly depressed and unmotivated to do anything at all. What would you recommend for tonight?" Is that the next message after you explain to her the side effects?
Yes.
Okay. So, and for 10 p.m., you respond to her, don't you?
Yes.
And what did you recommend to address those concerns about incredibly depressed and unmotivated?
So at this juncture, I recommended at least continuing the 200 of Seroquel because at least now she's sleeping. So I felt like although I had recommended getting up to 400, we had gotten sufficient activation symptoms down. She was sleeping. And the 2.5 of Valium. I think I advise that we need to give time for Seroquel to work for your mood. Let's continue to accumulate good nights of sleep, as this can only be a good thing in terms of recovering and feeling better moving forward. I would say take them tonight, and we will discuss further at our visit tomorrow.
And you had a visit scheduled for December 13th, correct?
Correct.
The message continues on that day where at 7:17 p.m. where she says, "Okay, thank you. I need to make our visit virtual tomorrow. I will not be able to make it to the office. Can you please change it to that?" Is that
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So after having met in person with her on December 6th, having had subsequent communications with her all through the date of December 7th and kind of, again, changing a little bit about the medication plan and having further communication with her on December 9th and now December 12th, the plan was for her to again come in person on the 13th, correct?
That was my recommendation, yes.
Why did you recommend in person at that point?
This was somebody who was communicating with me every day, and I did feel that she had significant symptoms of depression, some mixed symptoms with mania, anxiety. I felt that her symptoms were severe and significant enough that I wanted to touch base with her weekly, and I wanted to see her in person. But again, I was okay with her doing virtual because I'd rather see her and lay eyes on her and try to treat her than not see her at all if that would have made her just cancel the visit outright.
Because generally you do the same thing whether you're in person or virtual, right? As
Right.
far as getting the history, going through symptoms, asking how they're feeling, doing the mental status exam,
Right.
right? So you meet with her on December 13th at 10:30, correct?
Correct.
And now this is a virtual at her request.
Yes.
And do you revisit with her kind of the recent events and the timeline of the changes that you've gone through the MyChart messaging?
Yes, I structured my note as like a recent treatment timeline. So I put, 12/6, what had happened, 12/9, what had happened, and then I write update today, 12/13. That's sort of for me to like remember the treatment history that I've had with her so far.
Okay, because while the MyChart messages are available to you, they might be in a different place, right? So they're not all contained within your same note.
Right. So I made note of, again, our visit on 12/6. I made note that she and her husband had called me on 12/9, and then I made note on the 13th. So I wasn't documenting all the MyChart messages, but just sort of my visit history with her and phone calls.
Okay. And so when you saw her in this virtual visit on December 13th, was she reporting improvement in her sleep?
Yes.
And how was she sleeping during that time period?
7 to 9 hours.
Okay. And that was holding at 200 on the Seroquel?
Correct.
And was she taking anything else daily?
Valium, 2.5, just once daily at night.
Okay. And while she reported sleeping better, she still had significant symptoms of depression, right?
Correct.
And what were the symptoms she articulated?
Hopelessness and, again, anhedonia, that feeling no pleasure, feeling numb.
Okay. And she also kind of complained of that racing heartbeat, and that's tachycardia, right?
Yep, the orthostatic tachycardia. So I recommended holding a bit longer at 200 milligrams. At this juncture, she had been on 200 milligrams for 4 nights. I wanted to continue it for a full 7 nights. And then we were still discussing whether to taper benzos, and our plan was to kind of slowly phase them out at that point. So we were going to decrease from 2.5 milligrams daily to 2 milligrams for 7 days, and then we were going to reassess at our next visit in a week. I also provided psychoeducation about behavioral activation, CBT techniques to utilize for depression. I also recommended postpartum.net for support groups, and I reiterated that she consider a partial hospitalization.
And again, during this telehealth visit, you have these conversations with her, but you also do your mental status exam. You make observations of her, right?
Yes.
Did you observe any signs of mania?
No.
Did you observe any signs of psychosis?
No.
Did she articulate to you any suicidal ideation?
She had endorsed that she had had thoughts of it on the Edinburgh over the previous weeks, that she sometimes had thoughts of harming herself, but not at that visit.
Okay. And would that have been something you'd follow up on? Would that statement from the Edinburgh? Or
Objection. Would that be something you'd follow up on?
So I'll allow that.
So just to clarify, so again, the Edinburgh,
After coming from the witness, Judge, I'm sorry.
Objection overruled. Next question.
the Edinburgh is over the previous 7 days. So she had that thought sometimes when I asked her, are you currently having SI? It was no during the visit.
okay. And it just was the response sometimes.
Yes.
And so did you ask further in your interaction with her on that day, on the 13th, about whether she was experiencing suicidal ideation?
Yes.
Did she say she was?
No.
Did she indicate whether she had any plan or intent?
No.
And as far as intrusive thoughts, did she speak about intrusive thoughts during that meeting?
No.
Did she tell you she was having horrible thoughts?
No.
She had previously used that terminology in your MyChart exchanges, correct? At some point?
I do remember the intrusive thoughts that she would mention. Intrusive thoughts. I don't recall horrible thoughts.
Okay.
in the My Chart messages.
As far as the intrusive thoughts, were they things that you followed up on in your telehealth or in-person visits? And was she able to articulate to you?
Yes or no? Sorry.
Was she able to articulate to you what types of thoughts she was having?
Yes.
What were they?
Intrusive suicidal thoughts.
So thoughts of harming herself or just wanting to die?
Thoughts of wanting to die.
At any point did she ever indicate to you thoughts of wanting to harm her children?
No.
So at the conclusion of this visit on December 13th, what was the plan?
The plan was to continue Seroquel 200 milligrams and Valium 2 milligrams.
Okay. And again, in this December 13th meeting, did you also indicate to her that she should engage with other services like support groups or partial hospitalization programs or CBT?
I did.
Do you recall whether you received any My Chart messages from her after that visit on the 13th?
I did.
So
I actually sent her a message on the 13th.
okay. So on the 13th, you meet with her at 10:30. At 2:27, you sent her a message. Why?
I wanted to send along some more ideas and information on what she could do to help herself feel better.
Because even though she was reporting sleeping better, she was still presenting with these depressed symptoms, correct?
Correct.
And so in the message you sent her on December 13th, it's actually a fairly lengthy message that talks a lot about cognitive behavioral therapy, right?
Yes.
And the benefits of it, and sends encouraging words.
Yes.
Does she respond to you on the 13th?
No.
The next contact you have with her, is that in a My Chart message on December 16th?
Yes.
And December 16th, 12:50 p.m.
Oh, no, I apologize. The next contact with her, there was a telephone call on December 15th.
Okay. Was it with you or was it with a nurse?
It was with me and her husband and Lindsay.
Okay. Sorry about that. So December 15th at 3:53 p.m., you have a phone call with them. And what do they report to you in this phone call? What does Lindsay report?
They inform this has been the worst day for Lindsay, is having persistent intrusive thoughts of suicide, no active plan. But both Lindsay and Patrick agree that higher level of care may be necessary at this time. Discussed options, they state they are likely to go to MGH ED as they have perinatal psychiatry as well as an inpatient psychiatric unit. Lindsay also deciding about McLean. This writer advised that they keep us posted and sign a ROI, release of information, so that we can communicate with treatment providers at higher level of care. Lindsay verbalized understanding and agreement.
So on this phone call that you had with them on 12:15, what prompted the recommendation that they go to the emergency department?
Again, they had described it as the worst day and was having persistent intrusive thoughts of suicide. And they were at the point where they were ready to get assessed for a higher level of care.
And was this different than some of the other communications that you've had with, or that you had with Lindsay Clancy over the course of the weeks?
I would say so.
And so you talked to them about the process of going to the emergency department and the potential for going to McLean for inpatient?
I recall advising them that if they were to go to their nearest ER, which would either be BI Plymouth or South Shore Health, the process would be that they would get evaluated, but if they were determined to need to go to a higher level of care or an inpatient psych, those facilities did not have inpatient psych units. So they may be sitting there waiting for a bed at any first opening in the state, which could be, up in Amesbury or Newburyport. But that if they were to go somewhere like MGH has a unit called Blake 11, which is a psychiatry unit, and oftentimes they prioritize admissions from their own emergency department. MGH and McLean are also combined under the umbrella of what's now MGB. So sometimes if somebody presents to MGH ED and there's no beds at Blake 11, they might reach out to McLean and try to get them in to McLean.
So you communicated all of this information to them to kind of give them options on what the best course might be to get inpatient?
Yes, I summarized it in my note, but that's my recollection of the phone call.
Okay. And you're aware that that Ms. Clancy had been employed at Mass General as a labor and delivery nurse?
I was.
So they were familiar with that facility?
So I did ask, would you be comfortable with that?
And so then you were able to communicate with Lindsay via my chart that next day on December 16th, correct?
She reached out to me on December 16th via my chart, yes.
And she indicated to you on December 16th at 12:50 that she, after visiting the ER yesterday, I opted to remain outpatient and pursue the partial program at Women and Infants. And Women and Infants, that had been the program that you had previously recommended in Rhode Island, correct?
Correct.
She indicates, I'm waiting on a call back for them to schedule. In the meantime, I want to know how to proceed with my meds. Do you still recommend the 2 milligrams of Valium and 200 of Seroquel nightly? Again, it's making me sleep well, but still not improving my mood. So I will need a refill on those meds. Please let me know. So in this particular message, she indicates to you that she was waiting to schedule with Women and Infants, correct?
Correct.
Were you aware that prior to that Letitia Dukes had already initiated the referral process for Women and Infants?
Yes.
And so on this particular message, she's kind of updating you, but also asking you if she should stay on the same track for her medication.
Yes.
And what was your response? So December 16th at 1:14.
I said, hi, Lindsay. I know Letitia may have called you yesterday about information about Women and Infants, so I hope you were able to connect with her. Target dose for Seroquel treating depression is 300 milligrams, so we can increase it to 300 milligrams. If you are willing, yes, continue the Valium. Let me know what you think.
And why at this point did you recommend increasing now to the 300 after having recommended staying at 200 for the Seroquel?
The FDA recommended dose for treating depression, bipolar depression, Seroquel is 300 milligrams.
So on December 16th, you continue to have messages with, my chart messages with Lindsay Clancy, correct?
Correct.
In any of, or do you know that she went to see her previous psychiatrist on that day, December 16th?
Yes.
And so in her messages later in the day at approximately 2:11 p.m., she indicates, I spoke with my original psychiatrist after my ER visit, and she recommended adding 25 milligrams of Lamictal to stabilize my mood. Is that something you would agree with? Had you ever talked with her about Lamictal before?
No.
Is it a drug that you kind of commonly recommend for people?
I do.
And was it something that you thought could be a good fit for this patient?
Yes.
And so in your response to her at 2:26 p.m., do you further talk about using it as a mood stabilizer?
Yes. I state absolutely lamotrigine works well for mood stabilization and depression. I talked to her about the side effects of it.
I'm fair to say those side effects are like rash and skin changes, fever.
Can we find out what the witness feels the side effects are rather than counsel?
Well, why don't we let the question be, what was she told? All right? I think that's the proper question. So why don't you ask what was told or what was said or messaged to the defendant?
Can you tell us what you messaged her the side effects were?
So I recommended it needs to be a slow titration, meaning titration, increasing the dose due to risk of SJS, which means Stevens-Johnson syndrome, which can be a very serious rash that somebody can get. There's a higher risk of it if somebody takes Lamictal, which is why the FDA recommends such a slow titration, 25 milligrams for 2 weeks, 50 milligrams for 2 weeks, 100 milligrams. You can't really go quick with it. But I also specified it can cause a benign rash as a side effect. So any skin changes you notice, you want to be sure are not accompanied by things like fever, malaise, pharyngitis, swollen lymph nodes. Also watch for a rash that is purpuric or tender. Benign rash would be spotty, non-confluent, non-tender, and no systemic features like fever. Otherwise, I find this medication to be quite well tolerated. Take with food to minimize any risk of GI, such as nausea. I will send this to your I can send this to your pharmacy along with the dose change in Seroquel. Any luck with hearing back from women and infants?
So the Lamictal, am I saying that correctly?
Lamictal.
Is that something that you would add to the Seroquel?
Yes.
And why would you add it to Seroquel?
They work differently. They have different mechanisms of action, and they can work well together.
And so at that point, on December 16th, do you recall kind of what the last version of the medication recommendations were?
From me?
Yeah, so
I
at this point, you added a medication. So what was on the prescribed or recommended list for you, for her, as of December 16th?
So I asked her if she needed me to send along the lamotrigine, and she said that she had her psychiatrist send it along.
Okay, so, but as far as now what you know to be the medications that she's been advised to take, what are they at this point, December 16th?
Lamotrigine, 25 milligrams, Seroquel, 300 milligrams, and Valium, 2 milligrams.
And the Valium, is that still a daily recommendation?
Yes.
At the end of that message that you just read, you asked her if there was any luck with hearing back from women and infants, correct?
Correct.
Did she respond to you in a message about what was happening with the women and infants? The next message at 2:33?
In 2:33, she said, unfortunately missed the call this morning from women and infants, but I did request them to call back. I'm hoping they do so today.
Okay. And you said that you'd also learned in this exchange that her other psychiatrist had already called in the lamotrigine prescription.
Correct.
And then, did you have any further communication with her on 12/16?
I said, okay, sounds good. I hope so as well. And that was it.
When's the next time you spoke with her?
12/16 was a Friday, so I spoke to her on Monday, December 19th.
And again, did you speak with her via the MyChart messaging, or did you speak to her on the phone?
MyChart messaging.
And were you aware that on December 19th she had another appointment scheduled with Letitia Dukes for that morning?
Yes.
And in your communications with her via MyChart, they started at 11:04 a.m. on December 19th?
Yes.
And does she indicate to you in that message that she is starting with women and infants partial hospitalization tomorrow, meaning the 20th?
Yes.
And that she's concerned because she has an appointment scheduled with you already, and she's asking what she should do about that, correct?
Correct.
And what was your response to her?
So she has an appointment but should be in the program. Should I call and cancel or reschedule because she thought the program would be starting her medication? I said, I'm so glad you were able to get into the program this week. That's great. So feel free to call and reschedule. The only issue is that I am on vacation next week, so it might be 2 weeks out that we touch base again. If that's okay with you, let me know what you think.
Okay. And her response at 124, that says, I think since I'll be followed by women and infants, that 2 weeks out will be okay. My only concern is potentially needing more Valium before that. I'm trying my best not to take it at night, but have still been taking 2 milligrams every other night. Can we refill that just in case I continue to need it, right?
Right.
So at that point, when she sends that message saying she needs the new prescription for Valium, was that in line with the recommendations you made for a taper of Valium?
I had recommended that she take it daily.
Okay. And so in this, she indicates to you that she's trying not to take it at night, but taking it every other night.
Correct.
And on December 19th, you respond, sure, no problem. When will you be out of Valium? And she responds, I'll run out tonight. And then you agree to send in a refill.
Yes, I wanted to make sure she had an appointment rescheduled with me, and then I would refill enough of the Valium to get to that next appointment.
And so did you refill the prescription based on what she reported she was taking, or what your recommendation was that she take of the Valium?
What my recommendation was that she take.
And so do you recall receiving a message on December 20th via my chart from Lindsay?
I do.
And she reported to you that she had been discharged from women and infants that day, correct?
Correct.
And that they recommended she find help getting off the Seroquel, and that she was indicating that she'd like to taper the Seroquel.
Yes.
Did you respond that day or the next day?
The next day.
Okay.
Her message came in at 8:05 p.m., so I responded the next morning.
Okay, 10:57.
Yes.
And what were your thoughts about her report that she was discharged and the recommendation for tapering the Seroquel, or getting off the Seroquel, I should say?
I said I'm not opposed to that. However, I'm concerned she discharged you, as I do feel you could benefit from the groups and added support separate even from medication changes. In fact, if we're not going the medication route, I think groups and therapy are the treatment needed, as I feel the intrusive thoughts you've been having are nonetheless concerning, and I know they've caused you considerable distress. I'm also on vacation next week, so I'm hesitant to start a taper when I am not available to you for questions and concerns. Again, I'm open to starting a taper, but I want to be available to you as it happens. You mentioned you are connected to your previous psychiatrist. Would that be someone to consult as well?
And so when you sent this message at 10:57, were you opposed to the idea of tapering the Seroquel?
I understood that it was helping her to sleep, and I also understood that she felt as though she was still depressed. And she wanted to come off of it.
And in this correspondence back and forth on the 21st, was there any conversation about the lamotrigine and whether she took it as a mood stabilizer?
No.
As far as coming off medication, was that something that you thought might be a good option for her?
As I had expressed to her, I was hesitant. It could be done, but she would need a lot of what I would recommend to be group support, therapy, other types of treatment.
At that point, based on your interactions with her through the clinic, through all the messages, through the meetings that you've had, were you aware of whether she was getting any other support, like groups, other than Letitia Dukes and yourself?
No.
And this partial...
I apologize. Is she aware or no, she wasn't? She just said no.
If you could just,
Are you aware of whether she was?
I was aware it was recommended. I was not aware that she was interacting with any groups.
And the South Shore Perinatal Behavioral Program, you have groups that are offered through the clinic, correct?
At that time, we did, yes.
And if she was attending groups through the clinic, would that be something that you would have access to or be noted in her records?
Yes.
And as far as your communications with her, did she report to you that she was attending any sort of groups or therapy at other places in the community?
No.
The only person you were aware of that she was communicating with was her previous psychiatrist, correct?
Correct.
And that's why you made that recommendation to consult with her?
Correct.
And what's your concern, or what was your concern for not being available to her while you were on vacation with a taper?
I wanted to be there to evaluate if the taper was going okay, if she was suddenly having a hard time sleeping again, so maybe I could recommend that we go back up, or, just to reassure her, to be there for her while this was happening.
In your prior communications with her, she was very communicative with you about symptoms, about issues, about concerns, correct?
Correct.
And if you're on vacation, are you responding to my chat messages?
No. There would be someone that would respond. It would have been my nurse, and they would have consulted with the two other, and Julie, I believe her last day was the 22nd, but they would have consulted with the other NP there, but I would not be available, no.
And you were invested in this patient's care, weren't you?
Yes.
So on December 21st, after you made that recommendation that she not start the taper while you weren't available or consult with her other psychiatrist, did you get a response from her at 3:57?
On December 21st?
Yes.
I see 3:47.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's what I meant to say.
Okay.
So 3:47, she responds back to you, correct? And gives you some more information about the women and infants recommendation.
Yes.
And it reads, the psychiatrist at Women and Infants recommended a more general mental health, PHP, partial hospitalization program, right?
Correct.
Such as the one at McLean, which I'm open to. I'm also looking to schedule with a CBT therapist in Duxbury. My other therapists have appointments this and next week, so I can follow up with her too. How would you recommend starting the taper? I will need smaller pills, as the ones I have now are all 300 milligrams. Right? That's her response?
Yes, she says her other psychiatrist does have appointments.
Okay. And in the meantime, she had also sent an email to the clinic. Are you aware?
I'm not aware.
Okay. Do you know if she spoke with the nurse at some point on the 21st?
Yes, I asked my nurse to call to, again, go over the risks of tapering, which could include worsening of mood, worsening of sleep, verify that this was really something she wanted to move forward with, remind her that I wouldn't be there.
Okay. And on December 21st, 2022 at 4:26 p.m., you respond to her in the MyChart message, right?
Right.
And you had expressed reluctance for the taper, but ultimately, did you provide her a plan for taper?
Right. I said, I know Nicole reached out to you and she relayed that you would like to proceed with the taper. I'm sending as 100 milligram tablets, 200 milligrams, 2 tablets for 4 nights, 100 milligrams, 1 tablet for 4 nights, 50 milligram tabs, half tablets times 4 nights, then off. Let me know if any issues.
And is that a standard or slow taper off of Seroquel being at a 300 milligram dose?
Considering the fact that she had only been taking it for a few weeks, yes. If she had been on it for months, I would have done a slower taper.
And in addition to giving her that plan, you also had the nurse provide her with some information about DBT groups, correct?
Correct.
And what's DBT?
Dialectical behavioral therapy.
And how's that different from cognitive behavioral therapy?
Dialectical behavioral therapy, there's certain tenets to it, like emotion regulation, distress tolerance, interpersonal communication. There's a lot of skills to it. It's a very skills-based treatment. So we had recommended that as an additional support.
And the next time you had contact with the Clancys, when was that? After December 21st?
I believe that was my last contact with Lindsay.
Okay. As far as the perinatal behavioral health clinic at South Shore, you're aware that on December 30th, Patrick Clancy called in about his wife,
Correct.
and that he spoke to a nurse, Katrina Melanson.
Yes.
And the record reflects that he reported that she was safe, right? But she'd like to go to McLean.
I do recall that.
And he was advised to take her directly to the emergency department. You can't just go there to McLean, right?
Right.
In your experience.
In my experience.
And that he said he didn't want to waste a day in the ED. Is that your recollection of the record?
That is my recollection of the record.
And that he was looking just to get the bed that was offered the last time on December 15th.
Yes.
And fair to say that that's not how the process works?
They do not hold beds for that length of time.
Okay. And so then he was advised to take her to the emergency department or call 911.
Correct.
And was that the last contact that the South Shore Perinatal Behavioral Health Clinic had with Lindsay Clancy?
Yes.
You were never advised or got any messages from her after she went to McLean, did you?
No. We did
Okay. The answer is no. Go ahead.
Did you learn anything about her course of treatment at McLean after the fact?
We had been wondering if she would come back to us. We did review the Mass PMP, which is sort of a log of controlled scripts, and we saw that she had medications filled from her previous psychiatrist, Dr. Tufts.
And that would have been,
No, object to move to strike. It's not responsive to the question about McLean. She's now talking about.
Overall.
so the Mass PMP, what is that?
It is a database that shows when patients fill controlled scripts such as benzodiazepines.
And as a prescriber that has a DA license, you're able to review that information for any patient?
Yes.
And so after the 30th, when the call came in about going to McLean, you're able to identify that she was prescribed additional medicines by a different prescriber?
Yes.
And she never came back to the clinic?
Correct.
During all of your interactions with Lindsay Clancy, did she always present with clear linear thinking?
Yes.
Was she able to express to you her concerns and ask appropriate questions when necessary?
Yes.
And was she able to advocate for herself and express that she had some knowledge base about some of these medications?
Yes.
And at no point during the time that she was your patient or that she was at the clinic, did she ever indicate that she was had a plan to kill herself or harm her children? Did she?
No.
Thank you. There's nothing further.
All right. Counsel, can I see your sidebar? Just So I'm going to excuse you till around 2 o'clock. Same instructions, no research, no talking about this case. I hope everybody has a nice little break here. We'll see you back here right around 2 o'clock, okay?
Court, all rise.
All right, we ready for the jury? Okay. Yeah.
Court, all rise. Jurors enter. This court's now in session. Please be seated.
Your Honor, for the purpose of the record, we return back to the trial of Commonwealth versus Lindsay Clancy. All parties are present, including the 18 jurors.
All right, thank you, Madam Clerk. Mr. Reddington?
Thank you, Judge. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Your Honor, just a couple of housekeeping matters. I have the medical records from Women and Infants Hospital. I thought I offered that as an exhibit, but it's only marked for ID, so can I offer that now?
Commonwealth, any objection?
I have that we did mark them as Exhibit 220.
Yeah, I don't, this just says Exhibit F, though. That's why I usually mess up on those things.
There was another smaller packet that's not in a binder that council offered yesterday that's been marked as Exhibit 220.
There, it's up there.
Okay. All right, why don't we keep that marked for identification? If for some reason there's something different between Exhibit 220 and the identification, we could enter it. Okay. All right, if you need to offer anything additional, just let me know.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Don. The other thing, Your Honor, that what I would ask is that there has been a lot of reference to the Diagnostic Statistical Manual 5-TR, especially as it relates to bipolar and related disorders. There's not an awful lot, but there's like probably 15 pages of single-space typing, and it's really hard for people to absorb it. I'd like to offer that section of the DSM just as an exhibit, so if somebody wanted to look at it, they could.
I would object. We have witnesses to testify about that.
All right.
All right.
Why don't we mark that for identification? I guess
That's my book, though. I need it.
I don't want to take away your book.
So-
But why don't we can readdress that.
Okay, sure. Yep.
In regards to that, and if we're going to do it, it would just be portions of the
Yes, it would only be
DSM-5.
that one section. Like,
But we'll see. Well, I'll give the Commonwealth the opportunity to be heard.
Okay, thank you. So you, in the course of your employment at the South Shore Health, is it?
Yes.
How many times did Lindsay meet with you?
Meet with me was 3.
And how many times did she meet with, does that include medical?
Yes, I saw her twice, telehealth once in person.
And do you know how many times that, you know that she had a psychiatrist that had been treating her since end of September, early October, right?
I knew that she had a psychiatrist that treated her in September,
And who was that?
Dr. Tufts.
And did you know that she continued to see Dr. Tufts through October, November, December, the same time that she was reaching out to you guys for help too?
I was aware she took the Zoloft in October. I was not aware she was still seeing Dr. Tufts in November, and I knew she called her in December.
You would agree with me that young woman came to you people for help, right?
Yes.
Okay. And she was very, very forthright. In other words, if you wanted her to sign a HIPAA form, she'd sign it, right?
Right.
And she would answer your questions to your perspective in an honest fashion.
Yes.
She didn't really hide anything.
Nope.
She told you all about the medications that she had been on and her fears and concerns about the medications, right?
Correct.
She described for you as district attorney brought out what she felt her symptomology was, including suicidal ideation, worrying about suicide, feeling heavy, lethargic, you can't get out of bed, all of that stuff, right? Correct?
Correct.
And one of the things that you had left us with towards the end of your testimony is the fact that you were very willing, if you will, to work in tandem with other providers. In other words, you were concerned about being able to get information from other providers that had been dealing with her, treating her, right?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Did you talk to Tufts?
No.
Did you ever get access to Tufts' medical records?
No.
Do you know how many times she saw Dr. Tufts?
I do not.
Would it surprise you if I told you that she saw Dr. Tufts 14 times in the time frame of October or the end of September, October, November, December, and then January, 4 months?
Yes.
And that's 14 times plus the 3 that she saw you. Is that right?
Yes.
So that's 17 times that this young lady had access to healthcare providers for her mental health issues, correct?
Correct.
And that would be within a compressed period of time. I know it's the last week, I believe, in September, but October, November, December, and then January, right?
Yes.
And during that period of time, you're aware that she was provided many, many, many prescriptions for antipsychotics, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, benzodiazepines, all of that, right?
I'm aware she was prescribed other medications.
She was what?
Prescribed other medications.
Did you ask what other medications there were?
Yes.
And did she tell you?
Yes.
Did she tell you who prescribed them?
Yes.
It's pretty easy to get a list from CVS, right?
Yes.
And did you have any difficulty determining who was providing the prescriptions for all of these medications?
No.
And did you know that, in fact, it was Jennifer Tufts that prescribed the sertraline, September 15th of 2022, 30 count, 25 milligrams, was Jennifer Tufts. You knew that?
I did.
You know that Jennifer Tufts on October 21st, a 7 count of lorazepam. You know that?
I did.
And 5 days later, Jennifer Tufts prescribed on October 26th hydroxyzine, 25 milligrams with a 30 count. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Did you know that on the same day, Tufts prescribed 30 count of lorazepam? Did you know that?
I would have known that, yes.
How would you know?
Checking the PMP for controlled substances, yes.
You do recall that you checked with it?
Yes.
When you download, do you download that information and kind of put it in the file, save the file?
No.
So is this your memory that you believe that you checked with PMP?
I do routinely check the PMP.
You might routinely check, but did you check?
Yes. Yes, I did.
Don't download it, you don't keep it with the medical records, right?
It's a box you can click in the medical record and you can check that you reviewed it.
Okay. Is it in your medical record that you reviewed it?
I'm not sure how it would have gotten printed out. It doesn't like go into my note, but it is a box that I would have
Brought
checked
to a
it.
box in the computer?
Yes.
Okay. October 26th, buspirone, 5 milligrams, 30 count, same day by Tufts. You knew that?
Buspirone.
Yeah.
I was not sure that it was Dr. Tufts that had recommended the buspirone.
Okay, so if I suggest to you that the prescriptions that we have in evidence on the chart indicates that on October 26th, Dr. Tufts prescribed a 30 count of buspirone, would that either refresh your memory or would you accept that as being a medical history?
I would accept that.
Okay. And what is buspirone?
It is a medication used to treat anxiety.
Okay. And lorazepam, what is that?
Benzodiazepine.
And hydroxyzine, what is that?
It is an antihistamine medication.
And lorazepam, again, prescribed on October 21st as well as 26th, by Tufts, that's the same thing you just told us what lorazepam is, right?
Yes.
Sertraline, of course, is Prozac, is that right?
Zoloft.
Zoloft, Prozac, they're both SSRIs, right?
Yes.
So from October 21st up through November 9th, she was prescribed all of this group of drugs until she saw a Kayvon Izadapana, Izadpanah. Do you know who that person is?
They work in the emergency department at South Shore Health?
All right. And that would have been on November 16th when she went into the emergency department, right?
Yes.
Prescribed trazodone, 50 milligrams, right?
Yes.
And then she started to consult with your clinic around the 25th of November. That would be around Thanksgiving or so, correct? November 25?
I believe her first visit with Julia was November 21st.
Okay.
So
What I'm saying is that it was around that time in November that she started to consult with your clinic, correct?
Correct.
You know that she was referred to your clinic by her mother-in-law, Pat's mother, who was a labor and delivery nurse,
Yes, I am aware.
referred her to Julie Paul, who kind of stepped in for a very short period of time to try to help out, right?
Yes.
And then Julie left, went to New Hampshire to continue her work, and you picked up on November 30th of 22, is that right?
November 29th.
On November 30th of 22, you wrote a script for quietapine, 30 count, is that right?
Yes.
And what is quietapine?
Seroquel.
You also, a week later, wrote a script for diazepam, 5 milligrams, is that correct?
Correct.
And then the next day, you wrote a script for, December 6th, you wrote a script for diazepam, 5 milligrams, right?
Correct.
December 7th, you wrote a script for diazepam, 5 milligrams, right?
Correct.
December 7th, again, you wrote a script for quietapine, 30 count, right?
I would need to check my.
You can look at anything you want. If
Okay.
you have your records, feel free, please.
Okay. You said
Yeah, it would be
December.
December 7th. And I'm looking at quietapine, 30 count, 100 milligrams.
I don't believe it was a 30 count of 100 milligrams.
Do you remember writing quietapine script for 100 milligrams?
I do. I believe the quantity was 22.
22, okay. So on December 7th of 22, you wrote a script for quietapine, and forgive me, I'm sorry, what is that again?
Seroquel.
Seroquel, for 100 milligrams, right?
Yes.
And why did you write the script on November 30th for quietapine, 25 milligrams, and then about a week later increase it to 100 milligrams?
On November 30th, I had anticipated utilizing it over a 4-week course of treatment for sleep and anxiety. But her clinical symptoms, presentations changed, and we opted to use it for mood stabilization.
And who's we?
Me.
Okay. And were you working with anybody else, any psychiatrists or anybody?
No.
So when a person comes to your clinic as a woman who has recently had a baby or is within that postpartum range of time and presents with the symptomology that she presented, is that something that would give you cause for concern? Suicidal ideation?
I in no way want to minimize what Lindsay experienced, but it's common for us to treat.
It's common to treat women in that
Yes.
fashion that are
that are
postpartum?
Postpartum who may have suicide. Oh,
Keeps cutting off the witness before she gives an answer. May she complete her answer?
Sure, as I've said before, let's only talk one at a time. You finish your answer, and then we'll go to the question.
Go ahead.
Her symptoms were serious, and it's not uncommon for me to treat women with serious symptoms in the postpartum period.
Okay. 2 days later, you prescribed 8-count, 5 milligrams of diazepam. Is that right?
2 days from December 7th?
Yeah, it was December 9th.
December 9th. Yes,
4 days later, you prescribed more diazepam. Is that correct? December 13th?
correct. That would have been 2 milligrams?
Yes. And then jump ahead to December 19th, you prescribed 14-count, 2 milligrams of diazepam. Is that correct?
Correct?
And then December 19th, you prescribed 300 milligrams of quetiapine, 30-count, right?
Correct.
And that was on December 19th. 3 days later, on December 21st, you prescribed additional quetiapine, 100 milligrams, 14-count, right?
Correct.
And then 1 day later, you prescribed more quetiapine, 25 milligrams of 14-count, right?
Correct.
As far as your prescriptions continued on, if we can jump ahead, you continued to treat her, and on January 13th, you prescribed 2 milligrams of diazepam, 7-count, right? That would be on January 13th?
I did not prescribe that on January 13th.
All right, if I suggest to you that Rebecca Gelada has a script for January 13th of diazepam, that doesn't refresh your memory?
Would it have been a script that I had sent previously that hadn't been filled at the original date?
Well, I believe the records would indicate that. We'll make a note of it. January 13th, diazepam. How about January 16th? Do you recall prescribing diazepam to her, 2 milligrams, 3-count?
No.
Diazepam on the 19th of January, 2 milligrams, 14-count.
No.
No? So you're not able to prescribe medications, somebody else can't use your name, right?
Right.
And you have the DEA license to prescribe medications, correct?
Correct.
Now, one of the things that you went through was a lot of, obviously, it's a little confusing with the names of the various drugs, and the district attorney said to you blithely, she said, well, she's a nurse, so she knows what those drug names mean. Do you recall that question?
I do.
Yeah, and you just said yeah, right? Mm-hmm. So you're assuming that a woman who gets her RN at the age of 24 in a one-year program and then works for 7 years as a labor and delivery nurse is familiar with these names and what they are, what drugs they are?
She seemed to be familiar with them. Yes, she understood.
Did you know that she was Googling 60, 70, 100 times a night what benzodiazepines are, what Seroquel is, what all of these medications are?
I did not know that.
Did you ever ask her where she acquired what appeared to be, apparently to you, her ability to know what these medications are?
I'm sorry, I don't understand the question.
Well, you wouldn't know the medications that a labor and delivery nurse uses when they're helping a woman who's giving birth, would you?
Not necessarily.
Okay. In any event, one of the things that you left us with is the fact that you were very, I think the word was invested in Lindsay Clancy and were concerned about her treatment, right?
Correct.
You knew that she had gone to the Rhode Island program for Women and Infants Center, Behavioral Health Day Program in Providence, Rhode Island. You knew that, right?
I did.
And you basically gave her the referral. You didn't make the referral. I think it was Latasha Dukes that might have done that.
Correct.
So you were aware of the fact that a recommendation was made to Lindsay that she reach out to someone else for help, right?
Lindsay made me aware of that, yes.
And she needed help, didn't she?
Yes.
And she went to Women's and Infants Hospital on December 20th, right?
She did.
And was she treated at Women and Infants?
I don't believe so.
Why not?
I wouldn't want to speculate or assume, but it seemed to be her intake appointment.
Or what?
Her intake appointment?
Okay. So without assuming or speculating, you referred her to this provider, right?
Yes,
So you have this woman who you know has been seeing Dr. Tufts, a psychiatrist, right?
right.
You knew that. You didn't get access to Tufts records. You didn't know what Tufts was doing, but you knew that for a period of time before she saw you, she was dealing with a psychiatrist, right?
Yes,
You knew that she was a woman who had just given birth like 5 months ago, right?
yes,
You knew that she was obviously in trouble. She was sick, right?
yes,
You told us that she was suffering from, and your words were, a mental health illness that was very real. And you told her that this will get better, and that was in December of 2022.
yes,
So when you referred her needing help to this women's and infants program in Rhode Island, and she went because that's what she was told to do, what happened at Women and Infants program?
I can't speak to what happened at Women and Infants
Why not?
because I was not a part of that assessment.
What does that mean?
I did not see the assessment, and I did not speak with Dr. Diaz.
Why?
Lindsay had informed me that she was going to be at the program for 2 weeks.
She was hoping to be at the program for 2 weeks, right?
She told me she was going to be at the program for 2 weeks.
But she was turned away after about 8 hours of sitting there in an assessment and sitting in a group session, and she was turned away because of their concern that she was suffering from, well, let me ask you, what was their diagnosis?
I'm not sure.
Did you ever find out?
I have not.
Does it matter to you as a treating person that, I think your words were, is invested in Lindsay Clancy's care at that time? Did it matter to you why she didn't get accepted into the program?
It did.
Why was it?
I do not know their diagnosis.
Did you know that she had been diagnosed? You have different diagnoses, right? Like general anxiety disorder or general anxiety, GAD. And then you have, is it a differential? Is that what it's called? Mm-hmm. What does that
Yes. It means a differential in medicine could be patient comes in with a cough. What are your differentials? Differential might be bronchitis, pneumonia, strep throat. So it's different things, different diagnoses you consider.
Did you know that, in fact, they wouldn't accept her into the postpartum program because of their concern that she had been over-medicated by drugs, and they wanted to find out?
I can't speak to that.
Did you know that she was diagnosed as diagnosis depression due to adverse drug effects?
I cannot speak to that.
Do you know, invested as you were, that on December, strike that, on December 20th, the very same day that she had finished being evaluated, woman you were invested in, had been evaluated by Dr. Diaz that you recommended or you mentioned, that in fact, looking at the exhibit, that they recommended tapering Seroquel, starting 200 milligrams tonight, follow up with outpatient provider of note. We attempted to reach current outpatient provider Rebecca Gelada, but did not receive a call back.
I never received a call from Women and Infants.
So this medical record from Women and Infants saying that they called Rebecca Gelada and never got a call back, your memory is that they never called you?
They never called me. I absolutely would have called them back.
Okay. Well, regardless, you never talked to anybody from Women and Infants, did you? Whether they called you or whether you reached out to them being invested?
I did not. I know our program re-referred her a few days later.
I'm going to offer this now, Your Honor, I think just...
It's already in it.
Yeah, I know. We'll just,
Mark,
it's just certain dates. It's a week cleanup.
yeah, well, we'll keep it as an exhibit for identification. We can double check, make sure the pages that have been referred here are contained within, is it exhibit 220?
Yep.
And if not, then we can admit the second.
Okay, thank you. One of the things that is a takeaway from your treatment of Lindsay is that she was, I think your words were that she was scared and thought that starting these drugs, the drugs, it was scary, were her words, right?
Yes.
And at no time did it occur to you that Lindsay was doctor shopping or trying to get drugs. She was trying to basically get off drugs, right?
Correct.
One of the things that you had mentioned is that the Good Moms Have Scary Thoughts book is something that you guys would give out to women when they would come into your program.
Yes.
And hopefully it would be a good source for them to read things and maybe get some comfort from it, right?
Yes.
This is not, in your opinion, something that is indicative of like being a smoking gun.
No.
Police officer would seize it in the search warrant.
No.
This is something you guys provide people to just help them out, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And just a couple of things. So on November 17th, she had an office visit with you. Is that correct?
Not on November 17th.
Okay. And you are South Shore Medical Center, right?
Yes, that may have been her PCP.
Okay. Is that her PCP? Is that person that would be under the umbrella of the South Shore Medical Center?
Yes.
Would that be Kimberly Tocchio?
Yes.
Okay. So you must have read Kimberly Tocchio's records, I would imagine, right?
Yes.
And you know that she was seen, record indicates that she was seen by a psychiatrist, and this would be November 17th note, started Zoloft 25, which was then increased to 50 milligrams, right?
Yes.
And she took the Zoloft, 50 milligrams, for one night and was unable to sleep and was discontinued because of the effect that it had on her, right?
Yes.
Now, one of the things that you had mentioned is that it's important to determine, and you did have thoughts of possibility that she was bipolar. Is that correct?
Correct.
And one of the things that is contraindicated to someone who does suffer from bipolar, whether it's 1 or bipolar 2, is that you do not place them on a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor drug, such as Prozac or Zoloft, right?
Correct.
Because it can have an effect on them, isn't that right?
Correct.
And what's the effect it can have on them?
It can cause what we consider rapid cycling, meaning you can swing from mania symptoms to depression symptoms relatively rapidly.
On November 21st, did she have a meeting with you all? If you recall, looking at the records, did she meet with Julie Paul? If you know?
Yes.
Okay. And she gave Julie a history of what she had been going through, is that correct?
Correct.
And in that history and in her talks with Julie, she had disclosed the fact that one of the things that she did in November was took a marijuana gummy, one gummy, to try to sleep, right?
Correct.
And again, her medical tests, blood tests, urine tests, everything showed that she had no alcohol, no THC, nothing on board, but she still disclosed the fact that to try to get some sleep, she took one gummy in November, right?
Yes.
So again, she's reporting, trying to be honest with you people as a provider, correct?
Yes.
And the scales that counsel asked you about, you were talking about the depression scale, you were talking about the Edinburgh scale, and I think we all know that the Edinburgh scale is geared for an evaluation of a person, of a woman who is in that postpartum period, and you evaluate whether or not they are, as a result of being postpartum, severely depressed, right?
Yes.
And you indicated that at some point her Edinburgh scale was initially, what was it, 15, 17, if you know?
Initially at my visit, my first initial with her,
Yeah, what was her Edinburgh scale the first time you saw her?
17,
Okay. And that would be moderate?
moderate.
Okay. And then she had another Edinburgh scale after that, correct?
Correct.
And when was that, if you know?
December 6th.
And what is EPDS? What does that mean?
Edinburgh postpartum depression scale.
All right, so would you look at November 21st, please, which would be, so November 21st, she was administered a Edinburgh test, right?
On the 21st. That would have been at Julie's appointment. I don't have that in front of me.
If I told you that, well, on November 21st, it's a short period of time after November 17th, did they, whether it's Julie or somebody else, administer an Edinburgh test to her?
Yes,
And what was the result?
23.
That's severely depressed, isn't it?
Yes,
So in like 6 days, she decompensated from Edinburgh scale 17 to Edinburgh scale 23, right?
so she was 23 on November 21st
Right.
and 17 on November 29th.
Okay. So when you see a patient that's come to you and has an Edinburgh scale of 23 and an Edinburgh scale a couple of days later, that would be, what was it?
17.
And what was it when you first saw it? You referenced it before, 17?
17.
Yeah. That's still pretty high, isn't it?
It's high, yes.
Would that give you pause in conjunction with the symptomology that she's referring to and self-reporting, what she's feeling? I mean, the fact that she has a 23 on the Edinburgh scale, which is very high, and then followed up a couple of days later by a 17, taken in conjunction with what she was saying her symptoms were. That's of a concern, isn't it?
Yes,
So on November 20th, which would be the day before, that Edinburgh scale of 23, and the jury will have access to all these records, she was reporting struggling with postpartum anxiety, right?
I can't speak to
Okay,
that.
that's fair enough. We'll go to when you treated her.
Yes,
Did you have a chance to review Julie's notes at all?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah,
And when was the first time that you actually met with Lindsay?
November 29th.
Okay. Which would have been after Thanksgiving, obviously, right?
Yes,
And you would have reviewed the records up to that point, right?
yes,
So one of the things that you would have reviewed was what she had indicated or reported to Nicole Harden Francis. Do you know her?
yes.
And who is Nicole Harden Francis?
She's the nurse at our program.
All right, and this would be on November 28th that she was speaking with Nicole, the nurse. You read the report before you met with Lindsay on the 29th, right?
Right,
So you knew that she had been reporting panic symptoms, that she was disoriented, that she was forgetful, that she was not connected to her body. Is what she told her, right?
I would have to review that just to be accurate.
Right.
That's correct.
Okay. And would you agree with me that symptomology of mania, especially when incurred or encountered by a woman within the postpartum period, that's one of the symptoms, is being disoriented, right?
Not necessarily.
How about maybe a little bit?
Could be confused if you're manic.
Yeah. How about forgetful? That's an issue, isn't it?
Not necessarily a symptom of mania.
Okay. How about not connected to her body? What does that mean?
I'm not sure what that means.
So if you have a patient who's coming to see you, who's indicated the day before that she has the panic symptoms, disoriented, forgetful, not connected to her body. Wouldn't you ask her what she meant by that?
Yes,
Okay. So when you saw her on November 29th, you diagnosed that she had postpartum anxiety, right? Adjustment insomnia, right?
correct.
And when you met with her, you noted that over the last 2 weeks, you asked her about how she had been feeling, and she said she was feeling nervous, anxious, and on edge, and she said nearly every day, right? That's November 29th? That would be under screenings?
Yes, she was.
I would give you a page number, but they don't give us page numbers. She told you, and you can pull it up if you have it there, that she was not able to stop or control worrying, and that had been for several days at least, right?
Correct.
And she was worrying and stressing about things, worrying about different things every day, right?
Nearly every day, yes.
Couldn't relax nearly every day. This is a questionnaire form that you have, right?
Yes,
Being so restless nearly every day, correct?
correct.
Asked if she was annoyed or irritable, and she said not at all, sure, like she didn't believe that she was a person that would be irritable or angry with people, right?
Yes,
And then feeling afraid as if something awful might happen, and she got that GAD 7 score of 14, is that correct?
correct.
So what does a GAD score of 14 tell you on November 29th?
Moderate anxiety.
And then you ask about in the last 7 days, trying to get a history. She denied, definitely not so much now, that she was able to laugh or see the funny side of things, right?
Right.
And that she was asked, is she looking forward with enjoyment to things? And she responded, hardly at all, right?
Yes,
Blaming herself when things go wrong, she says, yeah, some of the time. Yep.
yes,
Anxious and worried for no good reason, yes, correct?
yes,
Scared and panicky for no good reason, yes, correct?
yes,
Then they asked if she felt sad or miserable, if she was a miserable person, and she said, no, not at all, right?
right.
Did she indicate that on that date, you gave her the EPDS Edinburgh test, and she had an Edinburgh score, as we said, of 17, right?
Yes,
All right. And then the medications that you prescribed to her, we've already got an evidence. The jury will be able to look at the actual scripts in the exhibit without going through every single day. The next time you saw her was November 30th, is that right?
I messaged with her on November 30th, yes.
Okay. And you indicated that if you're not sleeping well with Valium, no need to continue it. I'll prescribe a short taper. And you went on about tapering and 5 milligrams of Valium to 2.5 milligrams and no benzos. And
That was not on November 30th.
okay, does it say on the record, are you looking where it says patient message in the perinatal behavioral health program of South Shore Health, November 30, 2022?
Yes, I'm looking at the messages.
Okay. So is it a different date that you sent that message? It says November 30th on it, right? I just don't know internally if you guys have different.
Oh, I understand. Oh, at the top, it says November 30th.
Okay.
More specific, it'll say
Okay.
the dates, but the header will say November 30th, so I understand.
Okay. And basically, you indicated that you were going to send along information about bipolar 1 or bipolar 2, which actually would be what's known as a bipolar spectrum disorder. Is that correct?
Yes, that was on December 7th.
Okay, but it's underneath November 30th, so forgive me for looking at it that way.
Yeah, I don't know why I printed
That's all right,
that.
no problem. So one of the things with the mania that you refer to and that you talk about is excessive activity, is that it? Excessive cleaning sometimes, right?
Sometimes,
Excessive exercise.
sometimes.
Did you know that after she had Callan, that within a matter of a couple of weeks, that she ran a 5K?
No, I did not know that.
And that nobody wanted her to, including Pat, but she just had to get out there and run and did.
Objection.
Overruled.
You know that?
I did not.
Is that something that would be important to know? I mean, as far as whether or not a person is in that manic stage where it's post-delivery, and that's a significant artifact, if you will, of exercising, right?
It would have been something I would have considered.
Okay. And as I said, you were pretty much the only one that actually considered bipolar spectrum disorder of all the doctors that she had seen. You know that, right? Are you aware of that? All right, never mind. That's right. She's going to object. That's okay.
Okay.
So the symptoms that you noted were mania. It says mania characterized by exaggerated excitement, hyperactivity, and racing scattered thoughts, right?
Yeah.
So what is, go ahead.
Was that from my note?
I'm looking at the same thing that we've been looking at, which is,
Oh, the information I sent her on bipolar.
yeah, it says,
yes.
hi, Lindsay, and then your note, right?
Your Honor, if I may suggest maybe showing the witness what he's referring to.
She
so
has it
really
in
they
front of her.
I think I understand what he's referencing, but thank you.
If the witness has a problem in regards to that and you need to look at some, just let me know.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. If you move ahead to, I think, the message portal or whatever it's called, on November 30th, it's captioned "Stopping Remeron." And
Yes.
okay, you're with me. And it says, no, this would go to the fact that she was still not sleeping. It was a huge problem for her, right?
Yes.
And she told you in her message thing, no, the weird thing is I don't feel tired at all.
Correct.
And that's one of the things that you had told us earlier is a symptom, correct?
Correct.
A person that is not getting sleep but doesn't feel tired.
Correct.
What is the symptom of?
It's a symptom of mania that we look for.
Okay. And when we looked for that mania, did you notice that? And did you factor that into your diagnoses?
Yes.
Okay. How many times, if you recall, did Pat come with his wife to meet with you? Was it 3?
He came to a visit once. I believe I spoke with him and Lindsay on the phone twice.
Would you agree with me that, as counsel asked, did he get permission to be there? And you indicated no, that you would welcome the third-party contact, right?
Correct.
And did it appear to you that he was very, very invested in her care and was very scared and worried?
Yes.
And he was complaining about the fact that he believed, that they believed, that she was being over-medicated, right?
I believe he was concerned about her symptoms. He felt that they started once she started being medicated initially.
Right, because she indicated that when she first started taking the SSRI back in October, I believe, that she ended up having it increased and then had a period of almost 2 days where there was no sleep whatsoever. That was one of the instances, right?
Yes.
She also, counsel had asked you, and you did not recall her saying horrible, intrusive thoughts. So if you would just look at November 30th patient message. It says, hi, Rebecca. And then it begins, I don't expect you to answer this until Monday.
I see that.
Okay. And then she says how she basically only slept for about 4 hours at the beginning of the night, 9:30, and then dozed off for 45 minutes and said, today, all day, I had horrible, intrusive thoughts and deeply depressed, right?
Yes.
So when was the next time that you saw her after she sent that message on November 30th?
I would have seen her on December 6th. She had sent this message, I believe, on December 3rd, and I saw her on the 6th.
So on December 3rd, and again, it would be the way that they print this thing out. It has a date of November 30th, but then underneath.
If you like this video, then like, share and subscribe to ET Now World.